Well, welcome everyone. What is it, Friday evening, New York City time. This is MGTOW Values with the live hangout on air for MGTOW. And we're going to have a Friday evening. There's the sound check. Yeah. This is MGTOW Values. There. Well, we'll be waiting for people, hopefully, to join in the chat room, and we're expecting MH to show up and co-host this listening post. We're hoping men will drop in and discuss their situations and let other men know what's happening in their lives and how they're navigating the turbulent and dangerous waters that we face in the West. This is a difficult time. Laws are being passed from the laws in Amsterdam that make even saying hello to a woman a crime, to the laws in Canada, which open up all sorts of malfeasance if you question anyone's identity, including in a sauna. So we're in a situation of great uncertainty, and dealing with this uncertainty is the difficulty that we have to come to terms with, I believe. And MGTOW is trying to focus on reality and trying to find pathways for men so that they can go their own way. I'm going to put the link up right now, and anyone who wants to drop in, feel free to drop in. We are going to have some rules on dropping in. I like the thought of having 3 people drop in only, and that way we can manage it. And you say your piece, and we have a good chat, and then maybe drop off and let someone else on. And so we want to keep everything flowing. Hey, MGTOW Warrior, glad you could make it, and keep that hammer coming down. I was in a discussion with MH, and we believe that that hammer is effective in protecting MGTOW. Those trolls that come on have various purposes, and keeping the chat free of those trolls is going to help protect all MGTOW men. Those sock puppets come on, and we want to make sure that they're not doing damage. They have strategies to damage MGTOW men. So, hey, NYC Korean, welcome. Ogun, Harbinger of Iron, welcome. Yes, I believe the hammer is ready. Oh, that's good. Yes. I believe there was some trouble or something with your audio on your last videos, Ogun. You feel like dropping on, just drop in if you like, and we're going to have hopefully a good show today. There's a couple of things we can start with. I'm going to bring up a screen share of a comment I got just 34 minutes ago from Rodney Gall. Let me see if I can bring that screen share up. I think it's very, very telling. So what we have is a comment by Rodney Gall on my MGTOW versus MRA response to Paul Elam. And he was saying MRAs are where women claim that they are red pilled to control the topic. Well, that's it. We've seen women attempt to try to back off from this feminist attack on men, and MRAs are helping to support this. They have women involved in their situation, and they're all bowing down to these women. That's what happened in the early MGTOW, and they got smart. This is a men-only discussion. And Rodney continued, sorry, but reality is MGTOW walking away from the table. Yes, leave the plantation, and then figure out what you're going to do, and then go your own way. The well is poisoned, yes. If men don't play in the system crashes. Duh, right? It's obvious. Men walk away, you don't get injured, the system just withers. It'll have no one to attack but those manginas and feminists that remain. And as I mentioned previously in a video by Barron, who I don't like, but he did mention that 10 top feminists, high-profile feminist men, were taken to court for sexual harassment and things like that. Well, don't play the system, and you don't get that type of abuse. And Rodney continues here. He says, so true that so many men in red pill rage makes MGTOW look bad. And this is what the media is focusing on. Yes. They need a story. Bad news sells. They need drama. They need excitement. But MGTOW, are used to this. MGTOW they like the men to come on and talk. And so that's what this listening post is for. Men coming on and talking, telling their stories. And hopefully this will catch on. This is the first edition. But, we're not going to tone police if a man is talking about his situation. And so we'll get back to the screen share here. And so I replied to Rodney Gall, and I said, this is it exactly. And when people try to shame MGTOW because they want men to shut up with their harsh emotions, they are proving that the well is poisoned. Yes, they want men to be sacrificial creatures, and they want men to shut up about it, and men get angry. They just want them to shut up. And so there's no hope of engaging with these people. They are strictly vicious. And we've seen recently that Google is closing down advertising possibilities for anything with the term MGTOW. So they're attacking. But I'm gonna counter with all of this. I say that MGTOW is compassionate. MGTOW is unrelenting in disclosing truth. And MGTOW is you and all of us together will prevail. And because we have all of this on our side, that there's nothing to stop us. It will take over. It's just a matter of time. And as other people have mentioned, it doubles every year, and it doubles. And so we're going to get it. We're going to get it. Yes, I'm not sure who NYC Korean MGTOW is referring to. He actually commented on your vid. Who's the he? Rodney Gall or someone else? Yeah, a lot of people commented on this last MGTOW versus MRA vid. And, we can sort of scroll down on that and see, Paul Elam did comment on it. He said he watched the first 2 minutes in a steady stream of fallacies. Well, there was only one actual statement I made, and that is that women don't seek self-actualization. And here we see, I think, in looking at this, it was constructed out of the study of industrial psychology. Well, that's not true. Here it is here. Here's his self-actualization in that pyramid, 1943, originally published in Psychological Review, 1943. So it's not an industrial psychology publication. This was, a respected journal. I read that journal when I was studying, some articles in it. And he says it applies to all human beings. Well, that's the question. He's assuming it. And this is what MGTOW doesn't do. And this is the difference, I think, between MGTOW and MRA. We just have these bland assumptions, and it applies to all human beings. There's an assumption. I just ask for any evidence in history as to as to how this applies, self-actualization. How does self-actualization apply to women? Well, it doesn't. You don't see any, women striving for this really. There's a few that do, but again, the exception proves the rule, and all human characteristics fall along the bell curve. But we just don't see evidence of women striving for this. We see consumerism. We see 300 pairs of shoes. We see, endless talk about sex this and sex that. We don't see self-actualization. Whiskey, you're in. I put the link up. Do you want to pop in? You think we can pop in? Anyone else? Again, anyone is welcome to come in. And so we began with this, fine comment by Rodney Gall, which encapsulates what MGTOW is up against. It's up against these people attacking MGTOW because of comments made by men rightly angry, and releasing that anger and getting to the point of their experience. And Paul Elam comes up and calls MGTOW feral. Well, I asked, who's feral? Which major content provider is feral? And he said, I'm in that group of feral. Well, I don't think he's seen my videos. I'm hardly feral, am I? I don't think I'm feral. Wild, vicious, but maybe I am. I'm fine to be feral. In terms of the major, MGTOW content providers going back as far as I can see, the only thing I see is consistency in appealing to, the facts of the world, what can be demonstrated in the world. And what can be demonstrated is that men and women are different. Men seek self-actualization. Women do not. And I studied this in my philosophy degree. I also studied Maslow in a business degree. So I've had two angles at this. And you don't see it. You don't see self-actualization amongst women as a primary drive. What you see is them taking easy path. They take the easy path through life. They find a man, they get the money, they take the easy path. So, yeah, wow, turkey club sandwich, love it, love it. Yes, well, this is the Egghead Squad. I'm happy to be an egghead, which I think just means that I read a lot, and I wish to cite what I read when possible and make sure I get it as correct as I can. And if anyone wants to come up and attack on this basis, that's fine. But the listening post is for men to come on and share, their experiences. I invited a couple of people on. We'll see if they come on. Men new to MGTOW who shared some stories and videos, and they can come on and share their stories and bring the statistics to life. There's a lot to be said for statistics guiding the way, because the risk isn't for 10 or 15 years. And so you don't see the risk involved in getting together in this situation. But the risk happens in 10 or 15 years when that phone call is made, an unverified phone call, which puts, the man in jail, takes his kids, takes his home. All of this can happen, takes his plans and his hopes. That's what's ultimately, the kids, the hopes, the plans, all of this is what's really important. The assets and income, yes, that's important too, but it's the gutting of a lifetime done by this woman for, another pair of shoes, for this freedom to have fun, as Gloria Steinem points out. All of this is superficial and reveals a gross lack of self-actualization. So we cannot just assume that all humans strive for self-actualization. They don't. Men and women are different. And so men strive for the greatness, whatever that greatness is in. They strive for greatness in some things, or just to do a good job in some things. And by doing enough good jobs, you self-actualize as a man who just does good jobs. And that's a great way to live your life. And this is the depth that you strive, and you have to struggle for this. And women don't struggle. They like it at home with the kids, and my heavens, you read back and it seemed to be happy. Yes, there were bad situations, but it seemed to be a good balance for some amount of time, at least for some. And yes, as Whiskey says, the freedom to have fun. And what is it about fun? Why do we always need fun? Fun, fun, fun in the sun. It's like the Beach Boys. It's good for young kids getting out of high school, I suppose. And all of us need fun once in a while. It's good to have fun. It's good to have some laughs. But when you completely destroy a family in order to have fun, in order to have rights without responsibilities, it's no longer fun for everyone. It may be fun for you, but it's not fun for everyone. And so, this Paul Elam, trying to, coddle together MRA and MGTOW into this red pill philosophy. I think that was his plan. I thought his plan was to separate MRA and MGTOW, but I may be mistaken in that. Maybe it's to try to usurp another usurpation of MGTOW by trying to bring it together with this MRA approach. We're not going to have it. We don't go for this fantasy. The things that he said in this mission statement. I pointed to his own mission statement. That women are no longer within a destiny shaped by tradition determined by biology. Well, yes, they are determined by biology. This is just denying reality. Men are determined by their biology, and so much of men's biology is what's getting them into trouble. They have to meet these needs, and these needs are evolutionarily and biologically programmed. And combined with the social narrative, they lead men down a path to destruction. And this is the destruction that winds up in a divorce court. Ogun, harbinger of iron. I think I saw something about that essential Marcus Aurelius. No, I am not familiar with Marcus Aurelius. I believe he was a general in the Roman army and a spokesman. He made several speeches that are famous. I've read some of his work. Yes, he is recognized as being a good man, a soldier with resolve, a steadfast man. And at that time, it was a vicious time in history. The Romans were vicious. And to rise up out of that and have any ability for consistency, they stuck people up on crosses all around the towns and stuff, sometimes on the flimsiest charges. But I suppose the Romans wanted stability and peace. But they had slaves. How can you live a life by having a man as a slave and beating him when he doesn't do what you say? This is a strange world of the ancient Romans. But within that, you're born into it. You can't change the system. Nobody there could change the system single-handedly or as a group. They just sunk down into further corruption. They began with Romulus killing Remus in 700 BC, and then they invited these women to a party, and they abducted the Sabine women and promised them property. So it began with the gynocentric basis, and it continued that way, and thus the men were competing in the Senate and in the army and everywhere. They were competing to get gifts to give to women, and ultimately this led to corruption, which brought down the Western Empire of Rome, centered in Rome, while the Eastern Empire, centered in Constantinople, today Istanbul, that remained for another 1,000 years. But the West fell due to its massive corruption, due to its massive gynocentrism. The East survived, I believe, and I'll just put it out, that it was religious centric. The Eastern emperor became also the head of the church. And so they put a religious centrism in the East to preserve it, whereas the West was gynocentric. The men fought the wars to get the resources to give to the women to keep them from hypergamating. And none of it really helped. It turned into a den of iniquity and corruption, decadence, and Rome fell. Anyone think that we're like Rome today? Are we, enjoying the decline, men? Are we watching the new Rome decline? There have been many articles written on this, and there are parallels made. And I think a gynocentric approach is a good starting point, that we're seeing men, in destructive competition, making laws to imprison other men so that they can have a promotion. And yes, we want to keep this, they call it kicking the can down the road. So they put these countries of the West further and further into debt to keep us entertained with bread and circuses, keep us well fed with GMO products and other unhealthful things in a multi-generational approach. But yes, bread and circuses, and got to keep those women absolutely safe from the psychopaths. So we'll, destroy 84% of normal, non-psychopathic, non-sadistic men, just to keep, that 4% of psychopaths, away from women. Yes, it's a multi-generational passing of the buck. The unborn are now in debt, which is not good. It started when I was young. I didn't quite realize how bad it was. I see it now. 100-year bonds, 70-year bonds, 50-year government bonds, 30-year government bonds. This is placing multi-generations in debt. By the time they reach 30 years old, they owe money for something they never received value for. And all of this is to keep this bread and circuses and keep this gynocentric system going. It is Rome. This is a modern Rome, and it will fall. The West is going to fall. And MGTOW is here to warn young men not to get in prison. Don't become a slave before this collapse happens. You read what central banks are writing, you read what some analysts of large banks are saying, and it's just, it's difficult to understand the workings of this system. But I read a report yesterday, and what happens is that there's a disjunct between the short-term yields in Europe and in North America. So there's a separation. They've always followed a similar course, but now there's a separation. But the long-term returns are equal. And this analyst from a large bank determined that it was because the central bank was printing money in this quantitative easing. So in the future, this what should be a difference, because there's a difference in the short term, there should be a difference in the long term, but there isn't. And what he said was that there's a lack of information. There's no information content coming from this, you know, evaluation of a future return that had come in the past. And so what I see is that we're not getting information from where we used to get information. And so the world, in terms of information, is shrinking down. It's getting closer and closer. So we cannot see very far into the future because the very actions that they're doing is stopping that information. You know, is it price discovery in the future? Is it some other way to value things in the future that, you know, today we cannot see into the future, whereas in the past we could. And so this is increasing risk. This is also uh, darkening the future. We cannot any longer see in the future, you know, at all. We have no information coming now. So darkness is encroaching upon our world, and we are shrinking into something smaller. We cannot see, and this is a danger. This is a risk, and it's eventually the risk is just going to be standing next to us and we won't be able to see it because we're in darkness. There's no information coming from anywhere. And this is what it was with the MRA. You know, they assume that all humans are equal. They have this egalitarian push, but we don't see that in MGTOW. We see the reality that there's differences, fundamental differences. An MRA cannot accept this truth because they have women involved. And so by preventing their access to real information, they're never going to say anything of real value. And yes, and the history has been a lie. Almost all of it. It's been rewritten. It was rewritten before the history actually happened. And then if something wasn't right, they'd go back and rewrite it. I pointed out the other day the Corwin amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Is it still pending or was it closed off recently? But it was brought out by only the northern states. And the amendment said that, you know, the American Congress couldn't make any other constitutional amendment which affected the right to have slaves. So they were going to give in to the South as such and say that, you know, the South could have slaves as long as, you know, the South didn't try to secede, as long as they paid, you know, the taxes to the North, which apparently was the main issue. Obviously, it was the main issue. Because, you know, this amendment was about to pass. Abraham Lincoln was favorable to this amendment. And so, you know, the past is a lie. The past is a lie, and we cannot see into the future. And what we see is men linking up with women and getting into trouble with the legal system, such large trouble that they wind up sometimes homeless in large numbers. And you know, the damage to middle-aged men in suicide is astounding. You know, we have this peak now of men in their late 30s and 40s committing suicide, and this is a horrible, you know, this is a material number of men doing this. Why? Because they've been gutted by the system. They don't see hope. They don't see a future. And you know, we hope to, in MGTOW, bring reality to the front to say you were lied to. Okay, you were lied to, you know, 20 years ago when you were a young man, and that's no reason to let them win. Yes, you're damaged, but there's a way to salvage value from that. There's a way to choose a new path, a new way. Find MGTOW, take the red pill, then go your own way. But MGTOW is here always. Even if Google takes us off, we're still here because we know we're out here now. We all know we're out here and we see reality for what it is. not the MRA egalitarian lie that was fed by feminists and swallowed by the MRA, but we see that uh, women have a different nature, and their nature uh, let run rampant in this climate is totally destructive of the community. The community of the West is going into debt to pay for these services for women. The community of the West is going into debt in order to provide protection. It's going into debt to allow certain men, benefits from the government in order to, lay, trinkets at the feet of women to gain their affections and keep their affections. And even then, no one's safe from this. The rich are being taken down. And we hear stories, and young men are commenting that even these rich guys with access to lawyers and all the best, they're still, getting all their teeth pulled out by the legal system. No one's safe. No one's safe. And at any time, no one's safe. That you just have no protection if you allow this gynocentric system into your bedroom. So anyway, we have some good chat here. Yeah, 1984. Apparently, it's true. Google is listening. The NSA is listening to this conversation. They are listening. Welcome, Google, NSA. Yes, you are in a dystopia. That was mentioned even by those Davos people who are, part of this system. And we're going to see, we see some type of anarchy now. We see just a sidestepping of all morality, of any basic respect, morality. Here's MH. It's getting lonely here. I'm hoping MH is feeling up for coming on, and we'll try to entice some men on, some new men to MGTOW who are passing by this site live, coming to you live from MGTOW Central Distributed Headquarters. No, I'm not part of the headquarters. There is no headquarters. But there is a sort of a core unity of thought. And the core unity of thought is that men don't shame men of goodwill. They don't. And so this is what we do. We don't shame men of goodwill. And we don't advise men to enter into thank you, Whiskey. A monologue. Yeah, it's good to do a monologue, introduction, setting the tone, and maybe some men who would drop by would be interested to drop in and tell us, their stories and share it. And you're not going to be attacked here. No one's going to attack men on my channel. And hopefully share to other men the stories, because we see the statistics, but it's the stories that make it real. We don't have all the statistics. We don't know. People are trying to figure it out. 50% divorce, but is that with kids or without? If you don't have kids and you divorce and there's no alimony, there's no child support or anything, well, who cares, really? Okay, you maybe have a heart loss, a heartache. That's not a MGTOW issue as far as I know. Okay, you have a heartache. Okay, that's fine. You get over it. That's not the problem. The problem is being taken for a ride, being disposable to the woman. That's the problem. Being disposable to the system. That's the problem. Damaging and hurting men systemically by the government. that one woman does it. Okay, that happens. Life is not perfect. Life is not ideal. But that the system does it, that the government does it, and you can't escape the government. Previously, if it was so bad, you just run away. Abandonment was a choice, but now you can't abandon it. The woman turns into a shrew, and you cannot abandon it. You're locked in. You're a slave. And so this is, during the greater decline, of which this is a part, is just a bad position to be in. There was some talk about someone making fun of preppers, and prepping is good. I advise that all men have an ability to sustain themselves for some amount of time, given extreme circumstances. You want to be able to sustain yourselves and help others who need help. That's always good to do. You make friends that way, and it's good to make friends. So, but you should be able to choose who you want to make friends with. I don't really want to make friends with a divorce attorney, so I'm not going to. Yes, Baptist, welcome, Baptist Red Pill. And again, everyone's welcome to come on. I'm going to put down the rules here that 3 people can come on at a time, and when you've finished your discussion, maybe drop off and let somebody else come on. But at this point, we're nowhere near 3 people. But hoping to make, hoping to change that. Give me a second here. There we go. I got a little juice here. What's up? I'll tell you what's up. They're attacking MGTOW. They are attacking MGTOW. It was that really great Marcel Enlightened video. Did everyone see that? Did anyone see that? The Marcel Enlightened. He put up a video where he tried to become an advertiser on MGTOW sites, and it wouldn't let him. So that gave him the clear evidence that Google is censoring MGTOW, that they're preventing people from advertising using this term as a key term to advertise on. So this is clear censorship. This is clear thought policing. This is thought control. We don't need your advertising revenue. Dun, 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 dun. We don't need your thought control. Hold it. Maybe the advertisers do want the thought control. Yeah, but not all of them. So Google is now preventing advertisers from their freedom. Of course, they determined that MGTOW is discrimination. And I fail to see how that is at all possible. The enemy is a gynocentric system. A system. It's a system. Women are the gateway to that system for the most part, but not the only gateway. But MGTOW is against a system, not against people, not against humans. Unless the humans are serving that system and openly serving that system and are dedicated to that system. Yes, we have demonization, we have censorship, and yes, are they censoring by the demonization? In some way they are, because by doing this, people aren't putting up as many videos maybe. So this is an indirect censorship, but yeah, not a direct one. What's that? Ooh, man, what a mess. The PC was hacked, Baptist. Oh, nasty, nasty. Oh, man. Now, do you have copies of the vids on your computer? It's always good to do is have backup copies on your computer. The live streams you have to do separately, but yes. Yeah, not making money equals censorship. It's not direct. You're right, Excalibur. It's not direct. At best, it's indirect. Uh, in my case, um, I'm not making money for this and from these videos, and I don't want to make money, and not expecting ever to make money. None of that. So they're not going to censor me by that way. So, uh, but there is an indirect effect. Uh, when I came on, it was going, all out. People were jumping on, but maybe that wasn't a good thing because the content wasn't really high, and PUAs were becoming attracted. So in some way, not having a direct monetization may bring MGTOW back into its primary mission, which is uh, men-to-men discussions, men-to-men talk about the nasty things that are going on. And so this might be a good thing. It might turn out to be a good thing. But other people, it's good to have larger channels with greater resources to bring more people in and compete in the wider audience, just to get their MGTOW name and video title clicked on by men who otherwise would not have seen it. Now, somebody might be able to confirm or deny this, but when I came on in January of this year, uh, there was a MGTOW video on that right hand choice, and I wasn't really anywhere near this. I hadn't been considering it, but all of a sudden it came up, and I clicked on it, and then I clicked on another, and then I clicked on another, and then I went through the whole process. And I noticed in Google Trends that there was this spike. I think they put MGTOW up on these search parameters to see what would happen if it had a higher profile. And what happened was it just vastly took off suddenly. And that's when I walked in, and it was pretty crazy for a while. So and then they pulled it right back down again. They stopped putting this as a choice for men, and now they've completely blocked MGTOW as an advertisable search term, and they call it discrimination. So obviously, uh, they wanted to test the waters, I think. Not obviously, but I think they wanted to test the waters, and it brought me in, and I believe a whole bunch of other people, because there was this spike in interest. And MGTOW is now problematic for Google. It's problematic for the government because we're pointing out the truth. MGTOW are the compassionate. They have compassion for men, and yes, for women, because we know they have been suckered. And nevertheless, they are a danger to men. They don't know that they're a danger, and that makes it all the more dangerous, perhaps. They don't know what's going to happen to them because they have the feminist infection in their brain. And after being married and having kids and getting bored or something, they'll just dispose of the man and be feeling fully justified in doing so. So, yeah, this is horrible, Baptist Red Pill. This is horrible. Oh, man. Oh, a Mustang. Oh, man, you got to get that fixed. Nothing like a Mustang. Mm. I don't mean to be glib or anything, but I wonder if she ran into you on purpose in order to get your phone number. Did she get your phone number? Hold it, hold it. She's 17. We can't be talking like this. Edit that out. Edit that out. I thought it said 19. There we go. Yeah. No, I hope it's not. I hope it's not badly damaged. Really, ran a light. I don't know. Yeah. No, that's a bad week. Recoverable. Oh, that's recoverable. Uh, you know, lost time trying to reconstruct it all. Check with Zeitgeist either. See if he backed you up yet. I'm trying to uh, get some money to him, give him some more space. But he backed down the biggest two sites, or among the biggest of sites. So he could have swallowed up you and me more easily, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, an old '94 Mustang. Now, Baptiste, you just made me feel really old. I was thinking old as 69. Yeah, 94 I think of as new, but I'm so old, I'm out of the loop. That's what that anarchist guy said. I'm too old to care anymore. So, yeah, '94 Mustang. Nice though. Nice. All those Mustangs, really. Yeah. Hmm. I wonder if she'll be phoning you up looking for looking for a date. She saw your Mustang. She said, "Ooh, there's a guy. There's a guy." But she didn't know. She didn't know. Maybe, MGTOW should paint a red pill on the outside of their cars now to let everyone know. Uh, I'm not available for your games, ladies, or not ladies, whatever the case may be. So we're trying to entice someone on if a man is passing through to come up and tell his story. And we can spread this information to other men and give them a taste of reality. And that'll be good to support the statistics that we all know are out there in all the countries in the West, almost. Some countries are, at this point, still free of the worst of it. But some other countries are horrible. Spain and France, in Europe, uh, England, Britain, I should say, and other countries are less worse, I hear. Ireland is not so bad. And we have someone coming on here. I hear a voice. Ah, yeah. Whiskey. Welcome.
Howdy, values. How are you?
Well, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah. You're coming in great. Coming in great.
All right,
Cold? Are
good.
you cold?
I was. It's warmed up a little bit, but yeah, it's been chilly, to say the
Yeah.
least.
Wow. Yeah.
Today wasn't
And
so bad. Minus 7 Celsius.
yeah, yeah. That's short sleeve weather.
This time of year it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Once you get into February, minus 20 is almost short sleeve weather. You get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. You
That
just
may
gotta
be.
you gotta dress for it is the thing. You know that old
And
adage. You gotta dress in layers and all that.
yeah, you dress
That's
in layers. Keep
you know.
dry on the
Yeah.
on the underlayers. Yep. But you can get used to anything, and I think that's part of the problem with men. They get in this situation and they get used to it. They rationalize it. They think it's not so bad, and they refuse to see the signs, and then they get caught and damaged. So we can get used to just about anything. I think men can get used to just about anything.
Yeah, I think sometimes it can be a conscious form of, blatant being blatantly stubborn, and I think some of it can also just be, part of the unconscious way that we think, just as a result of the way we're brought up. As little boys,
Mm,
we're taught to, don't little, boys don't cry and walk it off, and that kind of stuff. And
yep.
we take that into our adulthood and into our later years, and we tend to try to be like Atlas and carry the weight of the world on our shoulders sometimes.
There we are. And yeah, some of it's willful blindness that you're aware that you're sucking it up, but you don't really want to. And other is that you're just sucking it up because you're told that's what you should do. But as Ayn Rand said, Atlas shrugged and threw the world off because it was giving him no value to hold it up any longer. He was being beaten down for his job of holding it up. And we can look to that great book, Atlas Shrugged, and to the predecessor book, Fountainhead, as examples of men walking off the plantation. Did you read those books?
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah, Atlas Shrugged and the Fountainhead both are on the MGTOW reading list. And Ayn Rand was an interesting woman. She's not quite a philosopher, maybe a political philosopher, but she's on that bell curve. She's out of the ordinary. And her books detailed the collapse of the West due to exactly what we see, entitlements. And she started, before feminism took control. And she was great before feminism allowed women to be great. So she's the exception that proved the rule.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with the name, and I've heard both the reference to both those novels before from other MGTOW.
Yeah.
I just haven't had a chance. So yeah, I'll put them on my list. What I'll do is
Yeah,
I'll buy a copy of each, and I'll put them in my bathroom, and I'll have them read in like 3 days.
Woohoo! Love it. Yeah, no, I'm not going to say that because what Atlas Shrugged is 1,000 pages.
Oh,
Fountainhead's
okay.
600.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, these
6
are.
days.
Yeah. There we go. There we go. MH, are you here with us?
I'm here, gentlemen. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, you're coming in great. Coming in great.
Good day,
And
MH. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you read Atlas Shrugged? Yeah, no problem.
No,
Have you read
no,
Atlas Shrugged or Fountainhead yet? No.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, they're good books to read. I read them quite young. I still have a memory of them though, and I have one of them in my book collection here. I found it, bought it, and so we've got a panel here. So if you're dropping by, listening in, and you want to drop on, a man to tell his story, a young man to tell his story, please feel free to drop in, and you'll have 3 men listening and more, and when it gets saved, and we can all benefit from the stories that everyone tells. Anyone have a story to tell? Getting silence here. No, we're
we're
waiting.
the panel, was it? Oh, I was just about to say about books, and I've got 2 books that are actually quite interesting to me. Celtic Britain is the one I'm on at the moment, and because I'm really into history, so I'm almost doing another one about World War II, Men of Air, about the RAF bombers, and that's another.
Oh yeah.
So I'm on my history thing at the moment. So
That would be interesting.
Yeah, so I like to do more than one at once, you see, because then because sometimes I have to cross-reference some things, so then I get interested in more than one thing. So that's why I often have more than one book on the go at once. So all good book fiends out there will understand that.
Yeah, that's right. Book fiends, multiple books on the go. You get bored with one, you skip to the other one, and then you go back, and uh, eventually you've read 300 books. Don't know how.
Well, I was thinking earlier on about MGTOW and about the friendships that we form amongst each other and the variety of channels that we've got. And I like to listen and kind of comment on certain videos and take part in the chat section with my ideas and criticisms and so on. I actually enjoy doing that. And one thing I've noticed is there's people like such as Howard Dare, yourself, Whiskey, and so on. We've got Warrior out there, NYC Korean, Savage is another one. We've got some excellent characters out there who have always got something to offer, and it's always a positive message, which is encouraging people, you know, to build on their skills and their inner strength and their abilities, and to encourage other men to do the same, and not to try and pull someone else down. And that's the thing I like about what we've got going on here. And there's not many areas left where men can actually do that. And the messages that we're bombarded with constantly are just negative ones where men just aren't valued, are they? So this is what this is all about now, giving men back the value that they feel that they're missing and that they're not being listened to. And that's why men start to get, not, I wouldn't say depressed or anything, but they can kind of lose hope in their future or in their situation that they're in or something like that. So that's why I like what we've all got going on here. So that's why I enjoy the community that we're taking part in, because it's got value to it. And so any criticisms of what we're doing, I'm quite happy to deal with, because as long as it's a value added attack, I've got no problem with something. But when it becomes just a smear, an insult, or a belittlement, that's when I really think that it's just going off course. So so I think you've got a good channel here, Values, and I respect, you know, yourself and Whiskey as well. You've got a great channel, and I respect the fact that you and Howard Dare and Values and you know, and so on and so forth. I've said to your subscriber base, come and check out my channel and stuff like that. And so it's an encouraging environment to be in. And so I'm grateful for you guys, you know, for letting me participate in your stuff and you participate in my stuff. And it's a great place to be. So I think the more people that take part, it's you know, it's a good thing for everybody.
Well, that's it. That's it exactly. You know, and I think this listening post project, somebody else, I think it was you, came up with a name, and I thought it was a great idea. That yeah, we need you know, a place to come and talk and invite men in to just talk. You know, you're not going to be attacked here. There may be constructive comments, but none of it is towards attacking. It's towards building up. And we're not going to have trannies on. I went to the debriefing site and made a comment on your comment, Whiskey, and there's nothing more I could say. And I agree with what you said. And the way
that reminds
that person
me,
was talking.
I have to reply to Howard's reply. Actually, I keep forgetting to go back and do that.
Yeah. Well, you know, there was you know, harsh comments made by that person and other people, and okay, maybe it creates drama. Maybe we need a little drama on this site to get the viewership up, and so we'll invite on people and have them attack each other. No, we're not going to do that. That's not here.
I like the point that you fellas were making earlier about creating a positive environment, you know, where men can feel that he can come and share his ideas, and you know, we can openly discuss things that are positive things for men to do, like, you know, what we're talking about, reading books and doing things that are interesting. If you find something that's a little bit more interesting, something that resonates with you personally, you're more apt to pursue that even more anyways. You're going to find a passion in that. So, for example, if you don't really enjoy reading, but you enjoy World War II history, so read World War II history books.
Exactly.
That way you're killing two birds, you know?
Yeah, yeah. If you don't like doing something, don't do it. Find what your passion is and follow that passion. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Talking about passions, has anyone heard from Timothy Blades lately? Because he had a passion for like cars, right? And he was
Yeah.
into building cars and rebuilding cars, and that's a great thing. I wish I had a knack for it. I have a thirst to do it, but I don't think I can.
Yeah, it's
So
good to have
where
a.
has
I
anyone
haven't,
heard from Timothy Blades? No,
not in a while. No, no. I
no.
know he had that big truck project he was working on, and that was part of
Yeah.
one of his series. Was the big truck that he was working on. As far as I know, it's still an ongoing project, but I haven't seen a video in a while.
Yeah,
But yeah, he had a great channel. That's a great hobby for a man to have. Anything to do with mechanic, whether it's automobiles or trucks or four-wheel drives or motorcycles. You know, it's just a good hands-on hobby that it can become something that you can even make a side business out of. Help
Yeah.
yourself, help yourself out financially too.
yeah. Rebuild a car, drive it, and then sell it. Rebuild another car, drive it, sell it. This is a great thing. Take a picture before you sell it, though. And with Baptist Red Pill story, there's always another car that needs to be fixed up a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, yeah.
On somebody like MH's case, working on motorcycles can be a father-son kind of a thing. That's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have some good fun doing that. So we spend a bit of time. It's usually on a Sunday now because he's working quite a lot. But yeah, we enjoy that, and he's really getting excited now. It's taking shape. He's really getting involved. So it's like it's a creative side kind of thing, and uh, you're rewarded, aren't you, by your efforts? You're rewarded in the end because you've made some kind of masterpiece that's got some kind of purpose, and you can just even if you just look at it, it's just nice. You can just look at it, isn't it? You've made something good. So
Yep.
yeah, I love it. Timothy's trucks they are good. And the one he's got there, the comment I left on it was just the one word, cool. And he understood that
Cool.
because that just says it all. It's just cool. And I love that kind of thing. Pickup trucks. I like to have an old Chevy pickup truck from the 50s, but that's not going to happen. So you got some respect to Timothy there for his truck. It's nice.
Yeah. And so we got to find our own path. This is a thing about MGTOW. A complaint maybe sometimes that we don't have a positive direction to say men go this way or men go that way. Well, we can't because every man has his own passions, and so MGTOW I think it just advises get out of the gynocentric system, take some time, unwind from all this programming, and then find out. Um, Find out what your passion is and then go for it.
Right. Well, there's definitely pillars of MGTOW that sort of build a foundation. But then upon that, it's your responsibility to start to make the choices for yourself in terms of, like you said, what are your passions? What are the things that you can invest in for yourself that's going to give back to you? It's not just going to constantly draw from you.
Yes, yes, the drawing from you. That's the danger because it sucks everything from you, and that's what happens, I believe, to men when they get involved in this gynocentric legal system. Is it just sucks everything out? It sucks the energy. It sucks the hope out, and it starts a downward spiral within a man's life that sometimes ends in horrible destruction. Too often ends in horrible destruction. So yeah, find a passion to build up, and MGTOW can't tell you what it is. You got to find it out yourself. We can provide suggestions or direction or assistance or something, but you've got to choose your own path.
Exactly. And if you're a father or an uncle or, a father figure of some sort in a young man's life, it's great to kind of pass this type of knowledge on to him as well. So not only are you doing something to improve yourself, but you're doing something to improve a younger man's life as well, or at least give him a little bit of a heads up and a fighting chance, at the very least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's got to be a fighting chance. And there's no fighting chance if you're a slave or in jail. That's it. You need freedom in order to have that, that fighting chance.
Yeah. And you need to have something that's a positive passion that you can look to when you do feel that on occasion you feel that you're being held down or being put through the grinder. This is another sort of misnomer or negative stereotype about a lot of us MGTOW is that, a guy who's a MGTOW is a recluse or he's a hermit. Well, not necessarily. A lot of times we fall on our passions as, a mechanism of self-preservation or self-defense. And in some cases, those passions do involve hanging out with other like-minded men. Maybe it's a men's sports league, or maybe it's hunting or fishing or working on cars, or maybe it's a science club or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. It's very difficult to set up anything official because women will nose their way in. But, if you go out hunting, you invite who you want to invite. You go out fishing, you can invite who you want to go with you. And, working on cars. So, the thing is to, find another man with a similar passion and work together and build up a little private club dedicated to this pursuit. This is a good thing. This is a return, I think, to the neighborliness that we had, in small villages first and then in larger towns. We've lost that with the large cities. We've lost that togetherness as men. We can't share.
That's actually true. Sorry to interrupt you there, buddies. Where I live. Carry on. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I want to cut in and direct Redshift. I was talking about Ayn Rand being a Zionist and supporting Israel. She was wrong on that. It's a shame that she was. I think she was, raised in a Jewish family or something. She escaped Soviet Russia at the very beginning. But she thought that the Arabs were like uncivilized or savage or something. And so she was a victim of a narrative that she didn't escape. So, she was wrong about that. But, that issue didn't play into her books or anything. There was none of that I could find. But, political philosophers should avoid talking about certain issues. And it was a bad issue at that time. That was at, the 73 war and the 67 war. Those were horrible events, destruction. But then again, it was part of manufactured destabilization, that somebody wanted the destabilization. Bertrand Russell said that it would result in what it did. He was completely against it. And Bertrand Russell has been named, part of the elite, but who knows? He was against it. Other people were for it for various reasons. And we see what it is now. Gaza is an open air prison, a very tightly controlled one. But the West is moving in that direction. We're putting the screws on ourselves. In all countries in the West, we have governments making ever more, legal restrictions on the actions of men. And this is to feed and fuel this gynocentric system. So Israel looks like a pilot project in this to me. Anyway, that's my comment to Redshift. Yeah. Are you going to drop on, Redshift? Do you want to drop on? Oh, sorry. Sorry for interrupting, MH. Take back over.
I was talking about mechanics and community and men getting together and that kind of stuff. So, I'm quite lucky that the fact that I know a few engineers and so on. So between us, we've actually got every tool for every job. So if I'm short of something, I just go and see one of them and I get it. And if they have short of something, they'll just either see me or, you know, we work out amongst ourselves, and there's many hands makes light work. So a couple of times I've helped a neighbour who's had a bit of an accident, beat out a panel on the car and that kind of thing. And
Yep.
he's helped me with a tool to, you know, and so on. So it does work that way, and it actually really does work. And it's actually a good feeling to help each other. And so it does actually still exist in the real world. So if we can kind of help each other, like the younger generation, like Whiskey said, it's all good.
Yep. Now, the younger generation, they may have different passions. It appears as though they have a passion for, you know, computer games, and they have a passion for internet communication. And, you know, they're hanging out in their basements with their systems. And this is all very well and good if this is their passion. And why should it not be their passion? This is the age they grew up in. You know, the age of the microchip and not the axle, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm not going to say that this pursuit is any less valuable to them than building a motorcycle is valuable to you. And everyone has to make their own value, has to make their own passion. So if you're
that's just the
stumbling
thing. If their passion is you know, something that's more in the realm of technology, if you know, if they're very techie oriented, then I would encourage them to pursue that, because once again, that's something that can not only help to cultivate their creativity, but it's something that down the road, as I said earlier, can become another source of income. It can be something that they can maybe use as a safety net to bank on.
Oh,
And it's a
definitely.
good opportunity. And it's a good opportunity to meet other like-minded men as well. Let's face it, you know, I don't want to stereotype here, but there's not a lot of chicks out there building their own computers and engineering their own, you know, electronic systems. There's not much of that going on. For the
Yeah.
most part, the majority of it, it's young, intelligent men that are doing this. So, you know,
No,
it's almost like there
I would
should be some kind of a throwback to the old computer sciences labs where, you know, after school you would go to the computer sciences room of your school after school, and it was an after school program, and you would learn computer skills. But this would be more about building and engineering and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That way
And
you're encouraging them to get out of the house, but you're still encouraging their passion.
right. Yeah, no, it would be good for, you know, young men and with that techie type of passion to get together and design and build computers. This is a very difficult field, you know, hardware, software integration. You know, it's quite complicated, and it would be good to get together. And additionally, you know, just to learn a language like HTML or JavaScript, and these are fairly easy to get around. You just pick these up, and you can work online. People will just you know, send you something, and you make a web page and send it back to them. You never have to go into an office, so you never have to actually interact with women. And so it could be a safe job. You know, what's happening in Silicon Valley, these men say something because they have to be in an office. Well, you know, techie jobs, programming, you don't have to go into an office. They don't have to see you. And you can work independently for 3 different companies or something on a project by project basis. And, you know, you remove that risk and that stress and all of that. And you can name your price sometimes. So yeah, get the techie, you know, some amount of programming or something. Work at home. Play games, play games, work. You're on your own schedule. And women can't do it for some reason. They're just not good programmers. Some of them can. All characteristics follow the bell curve, but it's a man thing.
Sure. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I mean overall in general. You know, I would apply the 80-20 rule to that. Say it's probably 80, it's probably more than 80%, but it's safe to say 80% men. You know.
Yeah. And you know, some you know, once you learn the easier languages, you move up to the harder ones, and some of the programs are pretty tricky. But you know, if you're good with computers, you can figure them out, and YouTube can teach you. YouTube can teach you. Just make your own certificate. I was YouTube taught on Photoshop or something like that. And give an example, and you're hired. And somebody will say, "Make me a picture or a graphic or whatever." And you can work for Bitcoin. You can work for money, and it could be a good life. Never have to leave that basement, except to go to the gym, right?
There you go. And I think even that, in some respects, is a little bit of a fallacy with the whole basement thing. I know you're kind of using it as a, in jest, but I mean, we do often hear that, that these young kids have just retreated to their basements. And I think you're seeing a bit of an upswing, especially amongst the sort of the late teens and early 20-year-olds now. Of getting back to doing things like camping, hiking, fishing, maybe not to the level of attending a lot of extreme sports like we saw in the 80s and 90s, but an effort to reconnect with something that gets them outside once in a while, even if it's just road trips or something like that.
Yeah. Now you go to a gym. Are you seeing young men coming in, like late teens, early 20s, coming into the gym now?
I do a lot, but that's because I don't go to a traditional gym. I go to a martial arts gym.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's it's a Muay Thai gym, and they also have jiu-jitsu classes there and traditional kickboxing classes.
Yeah.
So they do have women's classes. So the classes are for men, and then they have separate women's classes.
Yeah.
And but I would say even just overall, the members are, again, at least and probably over 80% men.
Yeah.
Generally, when I go there to work out, I see maybe 20 guys and maybe one chick, maybe.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
That's right.
Maybe two.
Okay. Yeah, well, the women can do that too. Again, it's a bell curve. Some women are into it, and some women can be dangerous. But it's good to keep them separate. The last thing you want is a man punching a woman in the face and being charged with assault.
Well, not only that, let's face it, it is a distraction. You hear that a lot, and you see it a lot in the chats where guys that do go to a traditional gym find that sometimes they get a little ticked off when women are basically going there and just using it as another excuse, as if they need another excuse to walk around and strut their stuff, and it becomes a distraction. Maybe not necessarily for them, but for a lot of the other blue pill simps around them, and it makes the gym an uncomfortable and in some cases hostile environment to be in. And these guys they just want to go there and be healthy, work out, and get out of there,
Yeah, no, I recall feeling that somewhat when I was going to the gym regularly. It was, you add a female into the mix and something changes. It just changes. It has to change, and it does change. And, the separate gyms are a good idea. We have separate bathrooms. Why not separate gyms? Just to let the men focus on what they want to focus on, and the women, if they go to work out, they should focus on working out, and that's it. Not strutting their stuff or trying to pick up a guy or get somebody's phone number. Yeah, if people want mixed gyms, there's mixed gyms as well. Whatever the demand is out there, right? Just allow the marketplace to decide on certain issues, right?
Well, with the gym I go to, it was an easy decision for me to make because not only do they have most of the equipment that a regular gym has anyways, in terms of, press machines and leg machines and all that, plus a lot of free weights, but then they offer all of these martial arts classes and self-defense courses. And it costs the same as if I went into the city and went to, some kind of fitness club. Club Fit or, Gold's Gym or whatever the case may be. But now I'm learning a skill or two. And I'm getting incredibly fit, much more fit than if I just went to a regular gym and ran a treadmill and lifted weights. I'm learning self-defense. I'm learning, respect and history of the sport of Muay Thai. And, I'm meeting a lot of men that think the same way that I do. So it's
Yeah.
just a cool place to hang out.
Well, this is a good idea. So, if someone ever listens to this, you're looking for something to do, set up a gym, separate classes for men and women, and everyone's happy. And so that's a good thing, and teach them skills. Bring in a jiu-jitsu expert for an instructor, and men will come for that, and a little karate or whatever.
Yeah.
You said Muay Thai. What's the name of your martial art there? Muay
Thai. It's Thai boxing from Thailand. So it's kickboxing from Thailand. The difference with Muay Thai compared to traditional kickboxing is Muay Thai in Thailand, you not only are allowed to punch, kick, and deliver knees and elbow strikes, but you're also allowed to headbutt. Whereas in the West, you're not allowed to headbutt.
So that's the main difference then.
Yeah.
Or only difference. Yeah. Well, the headbutt.
Well, basically, yeah.
Do they wear the head things, like the head guard things?
Well, when we spar and train, we do like boxers
Yeah.
do. Yeah, we wear the head guards and the heavier gloves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mouth guard and everything. But professionally, it's just gloves. No head guard. No.
Yeah. And what's the theory on headbutting? I heard that the person who gives it gets the advantage. Everything else being equal.
Yeah, that is true. And I'm not exactly sure why, because if you follow the principle of, every action has an opposite reaction, you would think that injury would be sustained by both parties equally. But maybe it has something to do with, because you're delivering the force, it has something to do with conversion from kinetic to potential energy, or potential to kinetic energy. I don't know.
And maybe it's the fact that the person falls backwards, perhaps a little bit at least, and thus that falling back absorbs some of the energy, and it doesn't fall back on you. Like headbutting a wall is different.
Yeah, for sure. And also the element of surprise. I mean, they're not expecting a headbutt, and you deliver them a good headbutt. You're expecting and preparing to deliver that strike as you're performing that strike, and if they don't see it coming, they can't prepare for it.
Right.
So that might have something to do with it too, because you can actually knock somebody out with a headbutt and not even split your own head open or anything.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. Amazing.
Yeah. So that Thai kickboxing, I've seen it on television, never live, but it's quite a sport. There was a Canadian champion for a number of years. I forget his name now, but he was like a worldwide champion in Thai kickboxing, Quebec or something.
There have been a
5
number
years
of
running.
There've been a number of Canadian champions. Even if you go all the way back to the early days of UFC, I think back to UFC 3 or 4 or maybe 5, one of the guys that I think won or made it to the semifinals anyway, past guys like Shamrock and Hoist Gracie and Tank Abbott, was a Canadian karate champion. But where the school that I went to was actually in the city of Calgary itself. And it was called Mike Miles National Kickboxing. And he, at the time, had just retired as the Canadian, I think, middleweight kickboxing champion.
Okay. Good. I'm going to have to drop out for a sec. Got to take care of something. Take over.
Yeah, absolutely. MH, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here, Whiskey. How are you doing, mate?
Great. Good. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, okay. Is it actually freezing cold there now, or is it still kind of reasonable?
It's warmed up quite a bit, just actually in the last few hours. It snowed a bit this morning, which actually tends to raise the temperature.
Right.
because yesterday was about minus 16 degrees Celsius, and today is only about -7, -8. So I think right now it's only -9, and it's dark. It's 7:30 in the evening where I am. So
Yeah, that's
so
not
it's
bad
not
at
too
the moment.
bad.
So you have
I'll
to make
take it.
you've got to make the best of it while you can, because a couple of months later, buddy. So yeah, I hope you're
Oh
ready
yeah,
for it.
yeah. January, February can be pretty cold.
We've got Savage.
The
He's popped in. He's in the chat section there. Say, hey, Savage, thanks. He's saying, congratulations on your 100 subscribers. Let's get up to 250. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, that's right.
So,
That's right.
yeah, thanks,
Congrats.
Savage.
That's right. That happened. That was last night, wasn't it, MH? Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks very much. And it's thanks to guys like you, you know, Whiskey and Values and Savage, and you know, all of you, Howard there, a lot of you, all of you. So that's great. I didn't expect that. I just thought I'd come on, hang out with a few guys, listen to a few stories they got to tell, and just, you know, tell a few of my own stories, give a bit of my own advice, take a bit of advice. And here we are now. So we're all together, hanging out and kind of sharing ideas and our theories about how we can improve each other and improve ourselves, and even improve our communities. Because I think that's what it's about, really, isn't it? Having a fully functioning community that values people and their skills and their abilities, as a positive message to deliver, instead of trying to belittle people. And there's a lot of that going on out there. And so I think where we are, we respect each other, and there's always value in what we've got to offer and what we're actually doing. At least that's the intention. I mean, occasionally things get a little bit dark or a little bit tiring or whatever, but generally speaking, we've got a positive message to deliver. So, you know, I'm really happy about it. So yeah, thanks everyone for your support and everything.
Yeah, congratulations. Good job.
Yeah,
Well
and
deserved.
absolutely. And last night's a perfect example of that, isn't it? Where, you know, you pop in and all you did was just kind of bring it up, and boom, all the brothers are there to lend you a hand, give you some support. I remember NYC Korean MGTOW was really saying, "Hey guys, you know, like, don't forget to subscribe to MH's channel." He's, you know, and there's a couple of other guys saying, "Oh, you know, he only needs 2 more. He only needs 1 more." That's what it's about, you know. We look after each other and promote each other's ideas, and you know, there's guys out there like Savage and Warrior and Values, and you know, guys like Traversable and Howard Dare. They understand this too, you know, and they understand the importance of trying to promote the idea that you can really have a positive effect on men who, you know, really do need help, and in some cases really don't know where else to turn, because 99.9% of us have been there ourselves in one way or another. So we understand, we can speak to the issues, and we generally have some compassion. As men, we do truly and actually care, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, I started the stream with a comment by Rodney Gall, and my response was, yeah, MGTOW is compassionate. It's compassionate to those commenters who come on and vent their anger. Yes, we're fully compassionate. I think that's a requirement of being MGTOW. We're compassionate. We don't shame men for doing this, and we don't care about the mass media, you know, trying to create drama. No, this is a MGTOW space, and men are welcome to come on and say what they want to come on and what they want to say. And in that, I'm going to put the link up in case anyone else wants to drop in. We've got
absolutely.
3 good.
Anyone
We've got.
who,
Yeah, sorry, I was just about to say we've got 2 good men and myself, and yeah, I was just about to say we got 2 good men and myself here to come on and chat with you about anything you want to talk about, and this is going to be the listening post. Hopefully, we'll make it a regular thing, and just to listen. We'll listen. You talk. You come on and talk, and we'll listen and engage and MGTOW the compassionate. Sorry, go for it, Whiskey.
well, I was just going to say, and not only that, but if you even if you feel a little apprehensive about speaking on air, or you don't maybe have the correct equipment, but you still want to pose a question to any one of us or even somebody else in the chat, feel free just to type it there in the chat. Let us know. Between the three of us, we're always going to check and see what's going on there anyways. And you've got some good men there. MGTOW Warrior is a great moderator, and he's there keeping an eye on things. So, there's a wealth of knowledge and information.
Yes, there's and this is the thing about MGTOW. It's going back just about 20 years now. So we have a pretty identifiable history, and there's a lot of information going back 20 years. We're just at the front of it now, but we encourage you to go back. If you're new to MGTOW, go back and look at all the old stuff. There were a few missteps by a few content providers, but those missteps are identifiable, and were shunned by the bulk of MGTOW content providers then and now. But even still, some of their ideas are worthwhile. So go back and do the history and dig it up, and it's still the same. There's a consistent message. I still find a totally consistent message.
Well, I was just going to say that when we were talking about compassion. Compassion is one of those things that speaks back to the consistency that you're talking about, where the message of MGTOW is consistent, and one of those consistencies is compassion. But like you said, if you go back to some of those earlier videos, like you said, perhaps there were some missteps, but you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You have to understand that if 99% of the content speaks to you and you understand it, and it's teaching you something and giving you a vast amount of knowledge, don't completely dismiss it because there's a 1% misstep. Providing that 1% isn't something that's completely off the hook and crazy, but you get what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
There's a fountain there that you can keep going back to over and over. I don't think that well is ever going to run dry because, like you said, consistency.
Yep, consistency and looking at truth. And that misstep, that 1%. We spoke about that, or at least I did with Ayn Rand, that she couldn't escape her programming. Some of her narrative that she got as a child, she couldn't escape it, and it came out. Other stuff she worked on a lot and analyzed it and came out with a clear position. But not all of us can escape our programming, myself included. No one can escape fully their programming in the environment you grew up in, no matter how hard you try. And so, if somebody can point it out that you're talking from this narrative, you'll get it. And this is what I did to Paul Elam. I said, you're assuming that women want self-actualization, but they don't. I was in philosophy classes, and it's the 80-20 there too. That 80% are men and 20% are women. And that's it. They don't search for these difficult things to self-actualize. You look at the great artists, the great musicians. You're not going to find women in the top ranks. They're not struggling or searching for this. The only area where I think women do strive for is literature. And there's some great women writers out there. But in all other areas.
When you look at a lot of the classic arts, really literature is the only one that at least at an initial glance would stand out to me as being anything that's that they've made any substantial contributions to.
Yeah, and that sort of makes sense.
Maybe in terms of modern art, maybe you could say music, especially popular music, modern popular music, anything from the 50s onward. You could say there's been some some contributions there, but
I'd
overall,
say they're very
in classic art sense, very, very few overall.
Yeah, although in the modern popular music, I would say it's still quite rare, except as singers. As singers, women excel. In fact, I think they're great singers. Most of the great
Yeah.
singers I can name are women. Name a great male singer.
Freddie
That's
Mercury.
hard. I don't know. Was he a great singer?
Freddie Mercury? Come on, man.
Nah, I'm not. Well, I'll have to listen again, but I never picked him out. I would say George Michael was a great singer.
B.B. King was
And
a
then
great
Michael.
singer.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah, no, he had a great style.
I think
No.
Dave,
I'm talking about a singing voice now. I'm
A
talking about
singing voice,
a
like
beautiful
control over
singing
the voice,
voice.
a beautiful
Yes.
singing voice. I've never
Yes.
noticed BB King, but I'll have to look back again. You're pulling them out. There are some, and BB King, maybe one of them. I've never listened for that from him. But yeah, there are some.
Redshift just gave an obvious one. Pavarotti, Luciano Pavarotti.
Yes, yeah.
You could
Again,
almost
you know,
say that's classic music that became popular. He helped to make modern opera music popular again.
again, it was popular at the turn of the century, certainly
Sure, sure.
last century. But yeah, no, there are, and they can be. Well, that's the whole thing. They can be. Uh, but on the other hand, I pick out so many female singers like Katie Lang and Mariah Carey and
Janis Joplin, and yeah, I mean, you're right.
yeah, and but as for writing songs and producing songs, I don't see women high up there
No,
uh,
no.
as
I think
writers and
maybe
players. And
a lot of it maybe has to do with could it be that as consumers of popular music, especially men, uh, we've been so brainwashed to accept the sort of simping nature of pop music. Everything from simple stuff like "I Want to Hold Your Hand" to the modern grungy shoegazing alternative music where I'll kill myself for you type stuff where you know it's more conducive to have a female singer because it relates to the man's nature, the type of man who really simps for this type of music.
oh yeah, definitely there was blue pill programming in the popular music, all the way back and forward. Yeah, love is the main theme, isn't it? In most songs, um, you know, in a high percentage of songs anyway, love is the theme, and encouraging men to dive into this blue pill reality and stay there. And in the 50s, it may have been true, and in the 40s, it may have been true, but by the 80s, it was getting dangerous. And today, you hear something about that. And maybe I can do a segue here. And Howard Dare mentioned on a video about Maroon 5 titling their most recent album Red Pill. What is it again? Oh,
Red Pill Blues.
Red Pill Blues. That's it. And anyway, he mentioned this, and there was all this talk either from members or from their publicists. I'm not sure which, because publicists will speak on behalf of the members, and the members don't actually know what the publicist has said. But maybe it is some of the members tried to pull back from that title. But I went through the album. This is what I do. I'm sort of an egghead like this. And I'll bring up a screen share here. And I went through the lyrics of all the songs on the album and tried to figure out whether it is actually Red Pill Blues or it was just an accidental name. So I think there's like 10 songs on the album. The first one, can you see the screen share here? Can you make it out?
Let's see. Yes.
Is it coming up? So
Yep,
the first song. So I wrote this comment on Howard Dare's video, and he was taking a good line and saying that they're trying to back off because they're simps. Now it may be that, but I did a synopsis of all the songs, and I'm wondering whether they're not slipping something in. I don't know, but all the songs are really about love and simping love and something like that. So in the first song, Best for You, it's a song about an unworthy, guilty bad boy. You know, he does drugs, parties with shots and powder because I can't turn this life around, baby. You don't want what I'm going to put you through. So here's an alpha bad boy who's feeling guilty.
Hmm.
So, okay, that has something to do with Red Pill, right? I don't know. Then the second one, What Lovers Do, is a song about PUA's wish of taking a woman on the carousel. And there's a video, and that ends with a guy in traction, right? So he's having sort of a dream or something. The video ends with him in traction. And one line from the song is, young enough to chase, but old enough to know better.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you chase the women, you'll wind up in traction, something like that. Was that the message here? I don't know. And the other songs, I have a one line summary is self-shaming, simping at its best. I'm begging you. So, okay, so is this a simping song, or is this pointing out that men are simps, right? And they shouldn't be. I don't know. Then we have a Don Juan classic. When I put my lips on you, I make you cry for me. This is, I don't know if this is Red Pill. Then down at the end, you can go through this yourself and look at it. There's a song, Who Am I? It's a simp prostrating at a woman's feet. And you read through the lyrics, and it's a simp prostrating at a woman's feet. And the guy's just begging, can you hear me now? Right? He's trying to say anything to the woman to make the woman love him. Is this not simping?
Yeah, that definitely.
And is this a Red Pill awakening, that you're looking at this guy doing this and saying, my God, am I going to be doing that? Is that what I have to be doing? So my question is, okay, they named it this, they're backing off for publicity reasons, but did they stick in a Red Pill anyway?
Well, I've seen some publicity where they have been apologizing for using the term red pill because feminists claim that it has a negative connotation and is associated with the men's rights movement, who are a bunch of woman haters. And members of the band have supposedly come forth and said, no, we didn't mean it that way. We meant it like the movie The Matrix, where Neo has an awakening and wakes up to the system. And we're feminists. We're all diehard feminists here in the band. And I'm not sure if a lot of these song titles and song lyrics and album title itself were designed with any idea of irony in mind, because I think irony today, a lot of times, more often than not, falls on deaf ears. People don't understand irony. They take things too literally.
Yes, maybe so. I don't know what the strategy was, but the songs, as far as I can tell, have got nothing to do with the movie The Matrix, but have everything to do with various ways that red pill men have been in the past until they woke up.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it would be a red pill man looking at his past and seeing all the different ways that he was. But here's one with your name on it. Actually, there's a song called Whiskey.
Right away, that's a good song, so we can just move on.
Yeah. But this one's sort of telling. It says the dangers of, my synopsis was the dangers of oneism when she leaves. And my quote from the lyrics was, till I was hers, but she was never mine. Someone call 911. I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
This seems like a desperation of a blue-pilled man, right? Or this just seems like desperation. This seems like the song that reflects. yeah, one-itis, and this is the red pill blues, right? That you're looking back and seeing that you had one-itis, and you no longer have it because you're red pill. So I don't know. Anyway, it was an interesting thing. It's interesting that they're backing off and saying that they're feminists, but who knows? Are they doing it, or their publicist, or they're doing it on the advice of their publicist? So anyway, take a look at the lyrics and make your own decision. But I thought there was something funny here, that we shouldn't dismiss it automatically as, you can't come out and say you're MGTOW, right? No one can say that.
Yeah, that would be a pretty tough act to pull off for sure. Even
so maybe they're trying.
Even with a lot of this stuff that's going on in the media now, I still don't think anyone, like, let's say if all of a sudden Leonardo DiCaprio jumped in front of a camera and said, "All right, guys, guess what? This whole MGTOW thing you've been hearing about? Well, I'm one, and here's what it is. It's not all this bullshit that you hear about in the mainstream media. It's actually this, and this. And thank you and good night."
Yeah.
I mean, that would never happen, but could you imagine if it would? I mean, you'd never see another Leonardo DiCaprio movie ever again.
Yep. You're probably right on that one. But at the same time, it would throw enough men towards MGTOW that, if you wanted a 5-year break from making movies, that would be the statement. Then take 5 years off. And after 5 years, you see 30% of men knowingly saying they're MGTOW. Whereas now, what is it? Maybe 2%, maybe 1%. So in the West. And yeah, but we do have a situation which was brought up. The media likes to point at the commenters, and I think Paul Elam of the MRA was pointing at the commenters. He couldn't point to major MGTOW content providers as feral. All he ever did was, I think, refer to commenters, and these angry men come on and they comment, and but MGTOW, the content providers, the enemy is gynocentrism. It's not women, it's some men as well, right? They're gynocentric. And
sure,
this is,
if they're part of that whole system, then absolutely.
Then they're it. So it's women bringing men into the system because women are closest to men. And it's the men that they encounter in this system, in the legal courts, in the, in the political spheres, putting taxes on men to pay for women's privileges. It's all of these men in the system. So, this is the message MGTOW has gotten out from the very beginning. This is the consistency. Women are the gateway, they draw men into it like sirens in the ocean. They'll pull
right.
you over the boat and into the mire. But men come on and they're angry at women because they suck them in and then rip them apart. So yes, they're angry at women, but MGTOW itself is neutral somehow on women until they've proven themselves to be knowingly sucking men in and destroying them. Then yeah, they become as vicious in the gynocentric system as those men are. What would you say to that?
Well, I like your adage of the sirens. The sirens are what are drawing the men's ships that eventually crash into the rocks.
Right.
The rocks
That's
are
it.
all the traps. The rocks are all the traps that are, laid there by the system. All the pitfalls that are easy for us to crash into. The sirens are just there as a mechanism to lure us. And the system
Yes.
itself are the waves that are pushing us towards these rocks,
Yes.
And the thing is that as men, if we're, quote unquote, red-pilled aware men, once we crash into these rocks, we can accept the fact that, okay, what has happened? I've crashed into these rocks because of the lure of the siren. and the drive of the system or the waves of the ocean. So I
Yep.
can look at my situation and accept it and take responsibility for my part, and then at least try to get ashore. Whereas for the woman, those same rocks are the wall that she hits. And for her, she's not willing to look at those rocks and take responsibility and accept her situation the way men do. Instead, once she hits those rocks or hits that wall, she tends to double down
Mm.
and try to do even more to be the siren.
Yep.
But by that point, all the good men have already made their way ashore.
Yes. Well, let's hope. No, I like that illusion a lot. And every woman can be that siren. Every woman, like in the Matrix, everyone in the Matrix can be Agent Smith. Every woman can be that siren to a man. And so, they are all dangerous. If they approach you, or if you approach them. If you just stay away from them or be very cautious, then they can't draw you in. The system's pushing you, the siren's calling you, but if you're aware of that, you maybe are able to navigate some path away from the rocks.
Absolutely.
And I think we're back out in the ocean. You and I and the MGTOW content providers and some of the regular commenters are back out in the ocean, warning the men about the sirens, warning about the waves, which are the system, all pushing you toward these rocks. And we're just saying, just hold out here for a while, circle around a couple of times, get the lay of the ocean waves, and look at those rocks. You don't want to hit those rocks.
We're the lighthouse now.
Yeah.
We're the lighthouse.
The lighthouse.
It's true. And this thought comes to mind quite often with me, is about the commenters, because this is what actually makes it for me, is actually the YouTube commenters. The videos are fine, everything, and obviously the brotherhood that we've got here going now with the streams, we invite people on, and we go into other people's streams, we interact with each other, that's great. But actually for me, when we're in our kind of relaxed state, our ultra relaxed state, where we can leisurely interact with things, because at the moment we're not on the spot, so to speak, but we're not as relaxed and in our own place, so to speak. But the comment section, is what makes it for me about MGTOW, because some of them, like MYC Korean MGTOW, he's epic, and so is Savage, and they're just epic commenters. There's loads of them, and they really can pick a subject apart, and they've always got a value added comment to make. It's not just some kind of first, because you see a lot of that on okay, you can let them go, because a lot of people just say first, don't they? They're actually there first, so that's fine. But people like MYC Korean and Savage, they're just epic commenters. There's loads of them, but I see MYC Korean everywhere, and he's always got something great to say. So so if anyone is passing by MGTOW and they're wondering what it's all about, and they see the videos, maybe they don't understand what the video's about, because they might be in some kind of state of mind where they don't quite understand it. But once they read these comments in the section below, they really can get quite intellectual, and there's a little debate that kicks off the video itself, which can in fact exceed the value of the original message to begin with, which was the video that sparked the commentary. So there are some really cool people out there, and so I'd like to see this kind of build on itself, and everyone encourage each other, and there's a general awareness built then, and the quality of the content improves, and the quality of the commentary improves, and everyone kind of just raises their abilities and their even their contentment in their life, indeed happiness, if that's the ultimate state of being is happiness and contentment, should I say, really.
Mm-hmm.
So in that order, so I think it's that's what's so good about what we're doing, and there are quite a few channels that are doing this, and it's fantastic work.
Yep.
I think you're absolutely right, and I agree with you 110%. A lot of these commenters out there, and you point out NYC Korean MGTOW in particular for a reason. I see it all the time. Other guys, other MGTOW that you think are everywhere are saying, no, NYC Korean MGTOW is actually everywhere. And he always
Yes.
has something very insightful or constructive or critical to say. He's a very sharp guy. He's been invited many times onto live streams, and he says, no, that's not my forte. This is my forte. This is my battleground. And a lot of guys talk about him. Howard Dare talks about him. Traversable talks about him. So many of the guys. MA talks about him. It's amazing. This guy is literally everywhere. And there's other guys, like you said, like Savage and MGTOW Warrior. These guys have a lot to offer. And I kind of look at it as there's a movie called The Watchmen, which was based on a comic book series called The Watchmen. And one of the taglines from the comic and the movie was taken from some graffiti spray painted on the wall in the comic book, on one of the pages in the comic book. And it said, "Who watches the watchers?" And to me, a lot of these guys who moderate on channels and go around and comment on MGTOW content are the guys who are watching the watchers. These are the guys that are really the glue that hold it all together. And they're keeping an eye on things for everyone. They're making sure that the message is being pushed forward in a positive way. And they're encouraging the people who make and deliver the message, but they're also encouraging the people who are coming up to receive these messages, to explore these ideas.
Yeah, I like that. I like that term, the Watchman. And, you know, I'd like to draw attention to two, Kova Redro and Thy Staff, Thy Will. They're equally as eloquent in their summations of the videos. And, you know, at various times you see them everywhere. And these are, you know, what I would term, you know, vetted commenters. They're consistent. They're consistently out there making comments, so you know that they're MGTOW. They're not a sock puppet of somebody, or they're not you know, a feminist pretending to build up, you know, credibility and then bring MGTOW down. You know, this doesn't appear to be the case with these people. You know, Savage in there, but he's also a content provider.
Yes.
You know, as am I. I do quite a lot of commenting, and I see these people, and I'm trying to pick out all of these long-term big commenters, because they're equal in value to the content providers. As you say, they highlight key points and they clarify and all sorts of great stuff. And so there's many ways to get the MGTOW message out: videos, web pages, commenting, and you know, good guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And quite
good on you for bringing that up, MH. Good on you, bro, because you're absolutely right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
because they've got great value. They really have got great value, these guys. And what I've noticed is that sometimes we do these live streams and these podcasts and so on, and some other people will pick up on things that we've said, and they'll do videos including these topics and expand upon that and add their own opinions to that. And so thus it forms a chain of opinions and ideas. And we pick up on other people's ideas and bring them on board with what we're doing. And it's a nice, you know, free exchange of ideas. And it's a fantastic thing for everyone to experience. I think it's a really great thing to, you know, for the internet to be able to offer us. This is a unique part of history now that we've been denied, which is the ability to interconnect minds that can increase the value of your life rather than detract from it. You know, which has been a time-honored tradition, so it seems up to kind of recently. So I think we're on to something good here. So that's it. That can only be positive on it.
Yeah, and this is a good thing to have the Watchman watching, because it keeps our message consistent. We can't be, you know, advising actions for men which are proven to be dangerous. We cannot advise that. We can point out the dangers and maybe point out a benefit, but we have to be equal in this. and the watchers are watching, and they should be watching to keep everyone on track. We're approaching a 20-year anniversary, I think, of MGTOW, and it's still consistent. It's still distributed. No one's in control. I'm not in control. You're not in control. And people are coming with a variety of ideas. But the consistent message of MGTOW as dedicated to men is remaining true. And experiments like Howard Dare did, bringing a somewhat vocal and rude transsexual onto the program, is just an experiment. And so we experiment sometimes and it wins, sometimes it loses, and time will tell, if we can get any value out of it. So we can't remain in the past. We have to keep on pushing forward. But at the same time, if we lose our consistency, MGTOW will be lost, I believe.
Yeah, we have to be careful where we tread when it comes to certain admittance, shall we say. Not that there are gatekeepers or that I or anyone else should really be ultimately the determining judge of who or who is not MGTOW. But let's face it, I think a lot of us here are in agreement as to what MGTOW truly is and how much the platform here on YouTube of MGTOW is in jeopardy. We often say that it's pretty much the last remaining male space. And for me, it raises red flags based on my history, not only what I've read, but my own personal family history. It raises red flags when you start allowing women or feminized, female-minded men into a men's space. The speakeasies got shut down and back in the 20s and 30s, and as a result, there were alcohol bootleggers. This is part of my family history. So I sort of, through passed down knowledge, understand what it's like to see how a small ripple can soon become a giant wave.
Yes, one rotten apple spoils the whole barrel. You allow something in, it starts to subvert, and then it just continues its subversion. And so, yeah, there has to be some care taken.
That's not to say that somebody shouldn't be afforded their rights and freedoms to express their opinions or ideas on what is clearly an open forum. And it's Howard's channel, after all, so he's calling the shots. He's the boss.
Yeah.
It's the Howard Dare channel.
That's right.
So who the hell am I? I'm just a little guy out here in the sticks. But the point that I'm trying to make is not that this particular person, this transsexual person, should have been completely omitted from any sort of interaction with the dialogue. But I think that it would have been more than fair to limit this person to the chat only and not have them necessarily appear on the live stream as a guest. For me, if it was Whiskey Stills and Tumbleweeds channel and that was my live stream, that's how I would have done it. Okay. And then from there, if this person in the chat started being cheeky, then it's quite easy to give them the 3 strikes you're out rule.
Because I was of the opinion of, which I think I've mentioned before, which was, well, let's start at the beginning. Is this individual a man? And then we got into the whole chromosome topic, and so we got the science part of the story, and then we've got the cultural influence story. And so there's all these facets to MGTOW that we discuss. And so, there's not just you that feels this way. There's a few other guys who've said to me that they're not happy about it. And one unsubscribed, which, that's his choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So some people feel very strongly about it. Some people I'm just going to see how it plays out and how other people feel.
Sure. And like I
And
said, ultimately it's Howard's channel and he can do what he pleases. And I mean, you know, I'm still a big fan of what Howard does for men and for MGTOW. And you can never take that away from him. Uh, and what he's done for me personally, for me and my channel.
yeah, yeah,
But that's not the issue. Uh, Basically, like I said, if it was me, I would have handled it slightly differently. I would have myself seen what was being said in the chat and maybe taken to heart a little bit more of what was being expressed there, because
yeah,
obviously the people in the chat are your, probably for the most part, are your subscribers, and they're guys that come in quite regularly. So
yeah,
you know, it's good to take their opinions and their ideas into account as well. Yes, it's your channel, but ultimately they're your subscribers and they help to drive your channel.
yeah,
And you know, if you're a singer and you're performing for an audience, you want to sing some songs that you want to sing, but you also want to take some requests from the crowd because it's a give and take.
yeah.
And I think that if it were me, I would have paid attention to what was being said in the chat and I would have acted accordingly.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of all that's going on. You know, I'm trying to keep track of all that's going on in this little thing here. You know, with the chat going, and I get confused. What I have to say, what people are saying, what's happening in the chat. The technology itself.
Sure, sure.
There's a
And
lot
let's face it, his channel is a big channel.
It's a big channel.
It's a huge channel. You know,
He had 9 or 7 people on there.
As far as MGTOW goes, I know he doesn't necessarily think this way, but he's one of the big boys out there, you know?
Oh yeah, no question.
So that's a huge, you're right. That's a huge arena to try to keep track of. You know, but he's pretty good at his craft now. He's been at it for quite a while. So I kind of understand where MH is coming from, to kind of see how this plays out and see where it goes. It's definitely interesting, and like I said, it's when it all comes down to it, it's Howard's channel and he's calling the shots.
And the good thing about it is, remember, it's starting the conversation, and I think that's a lot of what it's our duty to do, really, is to pose questions, and if not to push our own boundaries and our own perceptions on things, so we can start a conversation. And that's why I like what Howard there is doing. And I think it's an experiment he's doing. He's pushing the boundaries and trying to move forward in everything. So you might make the odd mistake, but generally speaking, we're all moving forward. So whether or not it turns out to be a mistake, that incident, generally speaking, it's another step in a positive direction. So I'm all for that kind of stuff.
I'm all for it as well. Although I don't think at this point I'm ready to bring a woman or a transsexual on, but I'll definitely bring on a blue pill man who has questions about MGTOW and maybe wants to talk reasonably and uncover the nature of being blue pill or red pill. So I'll accept manginas or simps or MRA, and we can uncover what the real situation of men is. And that's what we're, I think, all looking for, is to uncover the real situation of men, the men in the world, not ideal men, not men in courtly love stories, but how men really are and how women really are. And the situation today of the destruction of men. We want to uncover the truth of this so that men can make good decisions and go their own way. So, yes, experimentation is good. So, anyone going to sing a song? Somebody mentioned singing a song for an audience. That was you, Whiskey. Sing a song.
Puh! I don't recall any such thing. Lies. You're telling lies.
That ties into the previous point we were making before, about hobbies and interests and passions. There's a Whiskey there. He's got his record collection. He's really into his blues, and I thought I liked the blues until this guy came along, and he likes his guitar and his harmonica. He puts a lot of effort into what he does, and I've seen what he does, and And I have to say, you know, he gets my respect instantly. I mean, I play a bit of guitar and stuff like that, so it's always good to see somebody else with an interest and a passion who shares it as well. And so yeah, respect there. I like what you're doing
Oh,
there.
thank you. Yeah, right back at you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
and that's the thing, right? Is finding forging friendships with like-minded men. Finding similar interests. Doesn't matter if we're halfway across the bloody world from each other. We can still take joys in the same hobbies, and talk about these things together. It's a good thing.
So Redshift just said that if you bring a woman on, you can expose her inability to accept the truth. I just wrote that it might get messy.
Yeah.
If you have an inability to accept the truth, then it just goes back and forth in some strange, emotional versus, analytic way. And
Sure.
that person's narrative is such that they cannot escape it. Anyway,
Well,
I'll take over for a sec.
I
Yeah.
I can definitely see Redshift's point, but then you're finding yourself having to tap dance on a very thin line there, where on one side is you're having this person on as sort of for educational purposes to show men how a lot of women's true nature, how it can really be. But at the same time, then on the other side of that line is sensationalism and doing it for entertainment and shock value, and then you get into treading into the muddy waters of it just being sensationalized, and it sort of loses the true message of what MGTOW is really all about, which isn't necessarily attacking women. The women are not the problem. The system is the problem. And in a lot of respects, the women are just as much a victim as the system as we are. It's just that we take ownership and responsibility for how we react in this system. And a lot of women do not. They don't see that they're being affected in this way, and as a result, affecting us in a certain way.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's cultural influence that affects these women, and the fact that their bad behaviour seems to be rewarded in some bizarre way.
Yeah,
And,
it's a fine line when you have a woman on a MGTOW live stream or a chat. It's a fine line between it being educational and it being a circus.
Yeah.
Then you can go from being having a respectable discussion that's a free and open exchange of ideas to one of these so-called MGTOW channels that show bus drivers slapping the shit out of women or something like that. And
Yeah.
we don't need any more of that shit out there. There's plenty of that polluting the waters already.
That's right.
Yeah, that's not part of it. Nobody wants to hit anyone. That's what MGTOW is moving away from. They don't want any violence to men from the system or violence to women. No, MGTOW don't like that.
That's
and
right.
that bus driver, I remember seeing that video, and the poor man, right? He was being harangued and verbally abused, repeatedly for a long period of time, and he lost it.
Yeah.
Okay, he lost it. Why was he put in that situation? Why would any man want to be put in that situation? We do have brains. Our brains take over. We have a reptile brain, apparently, fight or flight. And he couldn't flight. And so you push a man so far, every man has a different breaking point. And this is, I was thinking about this discussion I had with Coach Red Pill. Okay, he said he was into a bad situation in the early 90s where he was accused of a sexual harassment, and he was thrown out of his university for 3 semesters, came back, and then he was shunned for 3 years. Okay, but that wasn't your breaking point. For some men, it would have been. And today, the penalties are worse. So how can you encourage men to play with their breaking point? Because some of them break, and we cannot shame men because everyone has a different breaking point. and we don't want to lose men for this reason. You know, men are getting no value for one thing, and then men are reaching and going past their breaking points, and it's doing men no good to do this. You know, it's a war, so why even engage in this war when you get no value, and the only benefit you get is seeing exactly where your breaking point is. And if you go beyond your breaking point, then you're homeless on the streets, on drugs, on alcohol, you know, contemplating suicide. These are not, you know, things that should be promoted. You should not try to find your breaking point. You know, stress yourself a little bit, but why go that far? You know, you're up against a judge. Why try to find your breaking point there? No, too many men have been lost for no value.
Yeah. I mean, there's an inconsistency in most Western nations, probably the whole world, between punishment and reward, you see. So it seems that no good act goes unpunished where we live.
Yeah.
For many of us.
Yeah.
And say if you do something good, say you just do a good deed, such as, you know, get someone out of a house fire. Well, where's your reward for that? You've got your own reward because you've done a good thing. That's the right thing to do. You've saved some lives. That's by the by. But the issue I'm making is if someone makes a fault or something that's perceived as a fault, or something which, you know, obviously which is a false accusation and so on, the risk of punishment far outweighs any gratitude for something good that occurs, which is why I like MGTOW, because it gives a man back his value, his state of self-worth, and he can feel as though he's got something to offer and he's got some value himself, and you know, he learns a few things and gets his own self-esteem back, and he gets his own strength back, and he can go out there back in the world to function as he ought to be, rather than having self-doubt and those kind of issues, which are just taking up energy, valuable energy that could be used for better purposes, such as, you know, work, coming up with some kind of new business idea, or, you know, that kind of thing, which is moving on, improving yourself. Like Whiskey says, improve your wealth and your health, you know, and just keep moving on.
Yeah, that's a great point, that MGTOW provides some confidence for men who see this danger and are unsure about whether they're being irrational in saying, I don't want to take that risk for that little bit of benefit. And yeah, some of these, you know, false rapes or whatever are black swan events, but the damage done, the punishment is, you know, is it 1 in 10,000 or something? Whatever it is, did the benefit of those 10,000 men outweigh the destruction of that young man's life? You know, that's the decision men have to make, that young men have to make. And you know, we just see the destruction of so many men's lives. And if you don't want to take that risk, if you just want to say, well, I'm not going to do that because this little bit of benefit is not worth that risk to my life, then coming to MGTOW gives you that confidence to say other men think the same way.
Well, that's just the thing too, isn't, if you're out there as a young man, you're under the umbrella of whether something like, you know, a false rape charge, as you mentioned, is a black swan event. Is it really? Because at the end of the day, we're still all painted with the same brush of toxic masculinity and the predatory man. Western civilization has a rape culture. All these fallacies that we know are absolutely incorrect. But as a young man living under this umbrella, honestly, he really, at the end of the day, is painted with the same brush. So it's no wonder that more and more men are realizing that if you pull yourself as far out of harm's way as possible, you're going to have at least a fighting chance, as we've talked about before. And soon, a lot of these men are going to come to MGTOW. And that's, I think we're already seeing a lot of that. And that's the sort of thing that we have to try to build upon, are some of these new guys that are a bit younger and are still living under this umbrella, and help them to realize that, yes, even though you're painted with that brush, we understand around here we understand that that's not the case. And now you're here, you're MGTOW, and you understand the idea behind what MGTOW is.
Yeah, that's right. You were breaking up a bit there, Whiskey,
Oh,
but
sorry about that.
yeah, no problem. Most of it was pretty good. Yeah, there is this big brush that all men are painted with. So the Black Swan event may become, less of an outlier because all men are automatically assumed to be this way, and you're going to act in this way and give yourself a target. Men are already painted with a target in the West, so you're a walking target. And so, if you interact with women, you're already a target. So anytime they want to pull the trigger, they hit every time, because the targets are like painted in fluorescent paint right on your body. So they just say, look, a man, bang, look, a man. It's like shooting ducks in a pond.
Yeah.
So anytime they want to hit you, they can.
It's like hitting the broadside of a
And
barn,
nobody
isn't
will,
it?
yeah, no one will second guess their shot. Oh, he's a man, he must be guilty. How do you defend against that? You can't.
Yeah, and because relationships are so dangerous to get involved with now, because the liability, if you have property, and ultimately if you have children, you end up with children and a property, you're under an obligation there, to which obviously starts off with your emotional obligation as a father towards your children. It's only natural to want to be with your children, have the influence over their life, and to bring them up the way you want to bring them up. And so that's the kind of message that MGTOW is saying as well, which is a very important one for young men, is that you have to understand, if you're going to get involved with a woman, is that you have the great risk of her changing her behavior at any time. So she might be a nice girl now. She may very well likely be a nice girl now, but in the future, just be aware of the fact that the cultural influences out there are so strong these days that her behavior might change, and it won't be for the better, if it's really allowed to get a hold, because bad behavior is encouraged and it's rewarded. So as long as you're prepared to be separated from your children and have some kind of emotional heartbreak, you're held hostage on occasion for the love of your children, and that's a very strange situation to be in.
Well,
And that's part of
MH,
the,
I'm sorry.
Hey, Johnny, please go ahead. How you doing,
Oh,
Johnny?
hey, Whiskey. Hello, Whiskey. Hello, MGTOW.
Yeah,
And
welcome, Johnny.
MH. I'm the only Yankee here, but I'm from Wisconsin, so we're kind of like the Canada of the states.
Yeah.
But
Canadian.
yeah, Wisconsinadia.
Wisconsinidian.
Oh, stop it. Anyway, what I was saying, what you're saying to MH is that the nature of woman could change at any moment. You thought you married a navel or a unicorn, whatever have you, and her hormones might change, whether she gets off the pill, gets pregnant, changes from, I don't know, crunchy to creamy peanut butter. It doesn't matter. You have to understand that will dictate her mindset and thusly dictate her attraction to you. I mean, there are studies that if you stop wearing a certain cologne, your woman might just be disgusted with you. That's simple.
That's simple. You're right. I heard about that smell thing, and I looked it up. It appears to be real, that their sense of smell changes whether they're on the pill or not. And I can tell you from personal experience, women's thought does change based upon their hormones. It just does. Not maybe every time, but it does, and it is significant and noticeable. So you're right on the mark there, Johnny. You don't know the future of their actions, and you can't blame them for it. They don't know themselves that they're going to change in this way, but they are, and you are the target. You've got the target painted on you now. So if they're unhappy, you're the target.
Yeah, you're on point there, Johnny. And not only that, we can add to it by saying that even us as men, as young men, we're still learning. And oftentimes, in the past, we can all look back on ourselves with all honesty. I'd like to say, that we knew everything when we were young, and it was not true. And so we were quite ignorant and naive and full of wishful thinking. And we often make mistakes and we pay for it afterwards. So we're kind of warning the young men out there that you yourselves have got a capacity to change. And so you might get in a relationship with a woman and then perhaps realize what she is all about because you haven't understood it, because she hasn't revealed it to you. You yourself would have moved on, and you wouldn't be happy with that kind of situation when you're a bit older, wiser, and more mature. So you'd be well advised to kind of take your time in that regard anyway these days. So, because the risks are far too great.
Wise words indeed. And on that note, I want to remind everybody that we've got a pretty diverse panel here of guys that are new, guys that have been around for a long time, and we've been going on 2 hours now. There's 9 people watching, so please, if you have any questions at all, don't be shy. Hop into the chat, type in a question, let us know what's on your mind. Got a couple of monks here. We've got a couple of fathers here. So, we're not doing this because, we necessarily are, have, a Patreon account, or we're going to drink some juice live on air in front of you, like certain guys named Darius. No, we're here to help you guys. We're here to answer questions, and we're here to have an open male discussion and, explore some of these ideas and not only help you guys out, but you guys help us out as well. And we all help each other. That's a big part of what MGTOW tries to do, especially here on YouTube, is to not only expand the idea, but to at least deliver on that idea and try to help men.
Whiskey, what we also want to talk about is like what is to come, what you might expect ahead of times. For instance, in France, if there are any Frenchmen listening right now, there is a PM or at least some minister of French Parliament named Marlène Schiappa. Marlena wants to, she's a diehard feminist. She wants to create a nationwide, not citywide or jurisdictional wide mandate against catcalling. Well, what men who quote unquote catcall women will now be fined. What they're trying to do now is to define what a catcall is. Is it following a woman for too long? Is it standing next to a woman too closely whilst speaking to her? Is it speaking whilst not being spoken on to?
Yeah.
And they are like splitting these hairs this finely, and they're trying to broaden that brush. It's not like, woohoo, baby, nice ass, nice tits. No. It might be like, hey, baby, or like, hello, what's the time? But you're like 10 inches too close to her.
Uh-huh.
And you may be fined by doing that. And it'll be like a traffic ticket. It's going to be so common. It's going to be so frequent that nobody goes to court to challenge it. Because
and not only that, it's almost as though your character's being smeared by saying you're some kind of pet sexual deviant or something.
Sure.
Because it has that connotation, which has got that stigma about it. And no man should have to suffer that indignity.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what laws like this have actually done, have taken a reasonable law, like an anti-stalking law, and twisted it and perverted it. So now it's become something that's so completely ridiculous that it can apply to almost anybody. You could, like Johnny said, you innocently ask a woman what time it is, or excuse me, do you know where the closest coffee shop is? And
Yeah.
he's catcalling me by asking me out on an unwanted
Awesome.
sexual advance out for coffee. And there
Well,
you go.
well, whiskey. I mean, what if you're walking to work? You're like, hey, it's a nice day. I'm going to walk to work. I can do that. And this, buxom young woman happens to be walking in front of you and going the same way to your work, and you're following her. Uh-oh. Thinking, hey, my name's Johnny. I'm going to work. She thinks you're a quote unquote creeper, and she will say, Comrade Commissar, this man is following me and he's catcalling me.
Yeah.
Find him.
Well,
And
here's the thing.
You lose an entire day's wages because you walk to work in her path. Come on.
Well, in Amsterdam, I thought the law was any statement or action that made a woman feel uncomfortable.
That bad, really.
They made it purely subjective on that woman. So they didn't even bother splitting hairs.
I believe nowadays that the law is changing, though, where even though we're supposed to have this alleged equality and that we're all supposed to be equal in law, is that they become gender-specific laws. And then you've got a real problem on your hands, because obviously something's not quite right there, So if a woman says something to a man that he might find offensive, then what kind of legal remedy does he have? I think you'll find he hasn't got much, because he'll be laughed at. He'll be
even if he does have a legal remedy, he's not going to take it. What man is going to take it to court? Exactly. He's not. He's just going to say, "Oh, she's a bitch," and then walk on. Right? That's it.
Exactly. Yeah, because they've got this victim mentality whereby bad behavior seems to be rewarded, and this kind of this culture thing needs to be stopped. I think where people got free reign to just kind of terrorize people for just wanting to have friendly interactions and just to get on in the world, because people are walking on eggshells and they don't want to form relationships, and they've been financially damaged, and they've been shamed for having these tickets for looking at somebody or saying the wrong word or something. Being made to feel
right. You might actually be subject to an ogling law that this man, whom I did not find attractive, looked at me for over 7 seconds, and you could lose your job, you could get fined, you may at least have, a 30-day imprisonment for it.
The issue I have with that also is
how ironic that this is occurring in isn't France known as the birthplace of liberty? Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's also the birthplace of feminism.
And I thought it was the city of lovers. Isn't Paris the city of lovers? This is ironic over most people's heads.
Yeah.
Don't talk love to me in Paris. Isn't that a new song about to be released?
Not falling in love there anytime soon, that's for sure.
Oh, no, that's it. Not falling in love in Paris. Yeah. You fall in love in jail in Paris. Yeah, it's a sick world, isn't it?
Well, for instance, as a Yankee, I'm going to experience this after you Canucks and Britons do. But it'll happen here eventually. I'm sure of it. In its own little way.
I don't know. There's going to be a point. I don't know what that point is, but there's going to be a point at which they draw it so tight in some place that it just pulls it too tight and it snaps. Like if men no longer can even approach a woman and ask the time of day without, being, sent to jail or to court or something.
Or at least fined.
Or at least fined.
Half your weekly paycheck is just shot because you said, "Excuse me, miss, where's the nearest coffee shop?" Mon Dieu, smack. Comrade Commissar, he assaulted.
I've got an issue with it, though. You see, this is another issue I have with the gender-specific law and like you were saying before, Johnny, the definition of, who draws the line as to what's an interference in somebody's rights in a sexually advanced kind of way or something. and what is an indignity, and what is a, you know, the freedom that who decides this? And if it hasn't gone to a court in front of a jury, and there's been no victim, and nothing was intended, there's no ill intent, then who's to issue a ticket? Because without a judgment, a lawful judgment, who's to issue a penalty for something? And who draws the line as to the definition of the
who's worthy to issue a traffic ticket? I went 1 mile over the limit, or 5 miles over the limit, or, you know, kilometers, whatever you call it.
I think common sense
you
is
get
gone,
one.
isn't it, Johnny? Yeah.
No, yeah,
common
it
sense
has. Absolutely.
I mean, someone's doing 100 miles an hour. I think they probably deserve a ticket. They're doing 70. Who really cares if the road's open and it's dark and there's no one around?
But you'll get one.
That's a big
You
long
will
stretch.
get one. Either way, you'll get one.
Well, you know, if you're doing 50 miles an hour in an urban area, I think you deserve a ticket.
Sure.
You know, it's common sense and logic, but everybody seems to be to the letter of the law and beyond, where it becomes so intrusive that everyone, you know, it becomes ridiculous to the point where you can't even live a normal life. You know, for if you make a small mistake, why are you punished so heavily for it? You know, if you can't make a mistake when you're young, even when can you make one? So the inexperience of the youth.
For state revenue.
Well, that's what it is. It's a gynocentric system. They're trying to suck resources from men, give it to the government so they can give it back to women.
Using the inexperience of the youth as his energy that he has as a young man, and his productivity and his future productivity is given away to a third party by his lack of insight and understanding as to the risks and the pitfalls of entering into a relationship in a gynocentric society. So
an intimate relationship is now saying hello on the street.
Right.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Well,
and you know what? All of the behind the scenes, darker, deeper stuff aside, like, can this ultimately lead to you having your paycheck garnished and losing your job? Well, I've even got to state and ask the obvious. Where's the manpower and the workforce to actually streets, pounding the pavement, who are going to be the beat cops issuing these citations?
They're going to have to hire more police.
Well, no, MV, you're absolutely right. France is actually trying to hire task forces, specifically like meter maids or traffic wardens, to monitor catcalling. I'm not kidding you. They're actually trying to get a Stop-Sicherheit enforced in the favor of women to patrol the streets of France nationwide. And a lot of people are like, I need a job. I'll be the pussy patrol.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So basically, men's tax dollars are going to go towards paying the people that are going to fine him for doing something so much as asking for directions when he's a tourist.
You're tooting right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly how it's going to work. They're going to exploit the masses of unemployed women and men who need a job, and they will say, will you try to discern whether or not this man should be fined for
and then they're gonna put in quotas and say, well, if you want to keep your job, you have to arrest at least 3 people a day.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And don't forget don't forget the sensitivity training they're going to have to go through.
Yes, that's right. After you get the ticket, you have to take the sensitivity training.
Which means man equals bad, woman equals good.
Oh, this is awful. I bet you there's like French ministers listening on this podcast. They're taking notes. Like, oh, yeah, okay, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but it is exactly what they're trying to manifest, what they're trying to architect. And you know what? It is
you're breaking up a bit there, Johnny. We lost.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Well, you were breaking up a bit. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
Great.
But,
what I'm saying is, though, that this is...
I think we have to look at a new tourist, motto for France. Travel to France, be accused of sexual harassment and pay a fine. Come to France this year.
Well, no, I mean it's so against public policy. It will unravel the relations between not just men and women, but people in general, and that has to be addressed. I don't think it will be, and that will, you know, eventually encroach into the Netherlands and Belgium and certainly Germany, Italy, probably
Yeah.
not Spain, but England for sure. What do you think?
Well, it's already in the Netherlands. I think it started there, you know, with that Amsterdam law and then Rotterdam. I think it's a national thing, or maybe city by city. But yeah, it's going to spread. I've
The
heard
money
about,
they make,
you know, problems in New
the money
York
they make
City
from
about that.
the money they make from all these fines is going to help to subsidize their shitty tourism business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's you know, the prison industrial complex, a little adjunct to it off to the side. You know, the men are already targets, so how can we get more money out of the men? Because they're not, you know, they're not marrying as much. This is like a bachelor tax in some way.
Well, whiskey
Young
and values.
single
I
man.
mean, look at your government. I mean, Justin Trudeau is running it. This is his wet dream. I'm sure of it. He would love to adopt it, at least in its own way over in Canada. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, Trudeau. Yeah, he
sure.
would be right up for this. Yeah,
He's very, very flexible, but the thing with him is that he's only flexible bending one way, and that's bending over.
Oh man.
Oh, terrible, but yeah, true. You know.
I mean, his old man wasn't the greatest either, but Pierre Trudeau is spinning in his grave right now.
Yes, he is. You know,
while his son pisses on it. You know.
Yeah, Pierre Trudeau was one of the only prime minister, or one of two or something, that was unmarried when he was elected prime minister. Then he got married,
really?
Divorced, and then at 70 years old, he had a kid. Right? So
really,
yeah.
Like he was 70 when he had Justin?
No, I don't think it was Justin. It was you know, help me out, Whiskey. It wasn't Sasha. He's got another one who's now.
Yeah, it was a daughter, I think.
It may have been a daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember actually. That's
with that
quite
lawyer.
A while ago now.
You know, she was 35 and he was 70.
Yeah. You know, say what you want about politicians, and especially Canadian politicians, but some of them in the past have got some pretty cool stories. You know, Mackenzie King used to take his toupee off in Parliament and slam it down on the table as he was delivering heated speeches and debates. I think Johnny MacDonald used to flip the bird to his opposition leader in the House of Parliament. Jean Chrétien got a guy into a chokehold because the guy was a protester and started physically attacking Jean Chrétien before the RCMP, who are basically his bodyguards. Before they could even react, Chrétien had him in a chokehold and was taking him to the ground.
Yeah, I remember seeing that video. It's fresh in my mind. I thought, you know, okay, here's a tough guy. And Chrétien also took a statue in his bedroom. When somebody broke into his bedroom, he picked up a statue and was about to, you know, crown the guy's head with it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that too. So, I mean, I don't know. Is there hope for us yet? Maybe. But obviously with the Trudeau lineage, the proof is not in the pudding.
It's not. No. And, you know, Canada's disintegrating. It's disappearing by just allowing it to disappear. Nobody's fighting for Canada. So.
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, it's a bit of a global joke that Canada doesn't have much of an identity in terms of, you know, a national identity, except for, you know, surface things like beavers and maple syrup and good beer and back bacon and, you know, stuff like that. We say A a lot. Hockey, we say A a lot. We say sorry a lot. we're really polite, that kind of stuff. And in some respects, it's true. And even what little of that is left is being chipped away. And, it saddens me a little bit because, I'm a born native Canadian. I'm born here in Canada. And, I have a lot of family history in this part of the world. And, I think that there's aspects of Canada that are beautiful, especially being an outdoorsman. And it pains me to see parts of the country just being slowly chipped away.
I love your geese. I love them. I'm going to blow a few of them out of the sky and eat them for fucking Christmas. I love them.
Geese are delicious.
Yeah, well, there's some of the, yeah,
Are
delicious
Canada
geese.
geese protected, or are they only protected in Canada, but you can blast away in the
Oh,
US?
Only in
no,
Canada.
yeah, right in Wisconsin.
Just like the
we can flip
Canadians,
the
when they
shit
go
out
down
of
to
them.
America, they're not protected anymore, and they're picked off by the police with their civil forfeiture.
You dirty
I
bastards.
remember reading the site that warned Canadians that $5.6 billion was taken from Canadians by American police in civil forfeiture.
Really? That much?
That's what
Oh, God.
that's what I read.
Here's a question
It's
for
like
you,
we already
Barney.
built the wall.
But if you ask yourself, how many of those civil forfeitures were actually after a lawful judgment in front of his peers in a court of law?
Zero.
And how much?
Zero.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, that's unlawful, really. Let's ask ourselves
It
that
is unlawful.
question.
It's highway robbery.
Yeah. How is this
horrible.
carried on in front of our eyes and being able to happen? It just makes no sense.
This is just
It's obvious.
a way for the system to beat down on men. Men, you have to open your wallets to any policeman at any time and fork over the money you have without any charges, without any jury. Just, you're a slave. You're a slave, men. So we're going to take your money.
Well, contrary to that, women in America, like for instance, my sister would get stopped by a cop and she would say, "Oh, it's time to open up my ticket, Dodgers," which means she would unzip her blouse and show her cleavage, and she'd get off scot-free. I can't do that.
Yeah, you can't pull your balls out and get out of a speeding ticket.
Well, you go to jail for life.
Man, you'll get shot down quicker than you shooting Canadian geese out of the sky.
Yeah.
No, true. Exactly. But like Abby said, yeah, she called them her ticket dodgers, and it works for her. I'm amazed. I'm totally amazed. How she could do that.
If it's not that, then it's the waterworks. It's one or the other.
Yeah. Sure.
Or they have a new one now. They just claim sexual harassment and turn on their phone, videotape it from that point on. And then that cop's got to run for his life if he's a guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting angle there. So if there are any cops listening anywhere, they've got to be careful they don't even fall for that themselves. The fact that even though they might even just be being friendly, they could be lured into a trap where they've been pulled over for a ticket, a violation or something. The lady gets a bit over friendly. The cop doesn't really object to it because he's being friendly, and maybe he's even a bit shy. Maybe he is trying it on. We don't know, but either way, let's beware. Very dangerous territory to be in.
Yeah, he's a man. He's got a target on him. Policeman or not.
Could be another positive argument on the side of body cams on police officers, especially in some dangerous jurisdictions or precincts.
Yeah. Where do you draw the line between being fully professional, being friendly, and becoming a victim? For all of us, men, no matter what the profession, and especially these guys, if they still hold the value of women as being on a pedestal, and if they're in the blue pill kind of simp mentality, where they think that they have to enter into some kind of competitive tournament against other men in order to gain resources to spend on a woman, so they hold the woman as being the prize. We're in even more trouble, aren't we? Because they're the ones who have got the incentive. Because remember, sex is the prize for them, isn't it? They're not the prize. So So they will
Well,
actually do things that normal.
MH, you also have to depend on the jurisdiction. For instance, I had one of my turn signals was out, and I didn't know it, and I was stopped for it. It was actually a brake light, and the trooper stopped me and said, and he knew me too. He was like, "Oh, hey, Johnny, I hate to tell you this, but you got a brake light out, and I got to give you a written warning for it, okay? So you better go get that fixed." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, I will. You know, I got 24 hours." He's like, "Yeah, you got 24 hours, so you better do that, and you know, be off you." And that was fine, but like other jurisdictions, you would have that same brake light out, and the cop would be pointing a loaded gun at you. You know, like, "Get the fuck out of the car!" You know.
It does happen,
So,
Johnny. It does happen.
It does.
I'm very lucky. Is that there's a policewoman that I talk to where I live, and I talk to her like basically how we talk now, and you know, we get on quite well. And so
Sure.
I hear what goes on out there, but the point I'd like to make here is that there is such a thing as community out there, and some people do actually know each other and they get on with each other, and there isn't really this role of police versus the people, and that you can communicate with each other if you've got the right approach. I mean, a gentle answer turns away wrath, doesn't it? So if you approach people in the right way, you get the right response, and you earn the respect. You give the respect. So it doesn't have to be a conflict, you know. And so there is a bit of that going on, Johnny, in some states, because that's kind of a, I wouldn't say it's a community thing, isn't it? Where that's their moral values of that community, and that's the way they police it. That's the way they deal with it. Whereas others are a bit more sort of, do you know what I'm saying there, Johnny?
It's impersonal, and the police officer does not know you, and he's afraid or she's afraid, and that police officer has to deal with confronting the unknown. Whereas with me, in my situation, this county trooper knew me, and he had to just say, "Hey, look, I'm doing my job as it should be, to give you a warning, to alert you to this fact that your brake light's out. So go get it fixed." And I did. And that's the way it should be. But if you're in, say, Southside Chicago, it's freeze, motherfucker, get your hand on your head. It's that unknown,
also,
that impersonal.
I think Value said before about the arrest quota that they're facing, whereby it is quite correct that in a lot of jurisdictions and areas that they have to arrest so many people, they get performance related pay, and so a lot of them don't like that, because it means then that they are compromised themselves in being friendly and having the community spirit, and just giving people a warning and saying, you know, just advice, a friendly bit of advice. It's not even the authority thing where they have to give out this warning kind of stance, where it's just, you know, are you aware that your tail lights out? I just thought I'd let you know, I think especially fix it, really. That kind of thing, which is the normal way of approach, isn't it? Let's face it. And as opposed to having to give out tickets and arresting people and going further and looking to see, oh, have you got anything? Can you open your trunk, please? Just like to see, you know, and then looking to see.
Right, I did not experience any of that. Nothing like that.
No, I don't either. But in some places, I've seen these videos on YouTube and on other clips that people have made where people are getting a hard time. So it's the performance-related pay that can make some people, some of them, go a bit strange.
Yeah.
Some jurisdictions.
And you know, they're looking after their career because they want to make a promotion. They want to get more money in order to, buy the house that his wife wants. So they want to climb this ladder.
Not only that, but I mean, it's no wonder half these cops are jumpy, because look at like MH and Johnny had mentioned, the uncertainty, a potential danger, the unexpected. They're not sure what they're facing on a daily daily basis, sometimes on an hour-to-hour basis, or even a moment-to-moment basis. And so
That's
it's no
very
wonder
true.
that they're jumpy. I mean, I kind of liken it to us here in MGTOW. We have to deal with all the shit that everybody else does, but then we have to
Yeah.
deal with attacks that are
Yeah.
geared specifically towards us as MGTOW. Cops are the
Because
same
that's
way. They have to
exactly-
deal with all the shit that everybody else has to deal with. Plus, they have to deal with all the shit aimed at them specifically because
They
they're cops.
Well,
they are targets
like-
in every way, in more ways than one. They've got there's just the pressure of being actual targets by criminals and by desperados, and also they've got the added element of being accused of something by women, or it's
well, like Whiskey. You're Calgarian or that area, but like,
Close, yeah.
what if you were from Winnipeg, which is like the shithole, the armpit of Canada? You know, I'm sure the police there or the RCMP are much more on their toes than they are where you are.
Absolutely. But Calgary might be an exception just in the sense that it's a boom town and it's always been a boom town. And as a result, you have a lot of construction, you have a lot of industrial work. So you get a lot of migrant workers, seasonal workers. But you're right. Overall, you have, a big city like Winnipeg that tends to be slightly lower in the economic scale. And therefore the crime goes up a little bit.
Yeah.
So the RCMP and the city police that are assigned to those areas, they're definitely going to be on their toes. A lot more than, let's say, in Brandon, Manitoba, which is only a half an hour drive away from Winnipeg.
well,
Or
the
Brandon,
thing is-
Manitoba,
or
it's sort of a
or somebody like that. Yeah.
Yeah. For example, Calgary compared to Banff. Yeah, absolutely. Banff is a small, sleepy mountain tourist town. So they have an RCMP detachment there. There's really not a lot of problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
The police
Brandon's
there are very
pretty
friendly.
Well, what you'll find is that whenever you have a society or a culture, even, or a state or wherever that has
Sorry?
made their justice system into a business, whereby anybody suffers, men and women, but it becomes it has a tainted kind of flavor to it, because that's not the original idea of policing and of their duties as public servants. So that's disturbing
Okay.
in itself, really, because
Yeah.
of this competitive tournament going on
Well,
about
like
the
in the
resource
States,
gathering.
for example. In the States, for example, where prisons have become a privatized business now. They're no longer, from my understanding, part of the federal government. The justice system. These are
No, they're
now farmed out
corporations.
private.
They're-
Yeah, farmed out private businesses.
Yep, it's the prison industrial complex, and yeah, this is part of the gynocentric system to, get money from people. It's no longer to protect and serve; it's to control and get money. So it's corrupted. It's a corrupted legal system and law enforcement system. So that the police are targets. Well, they're the bottom, and somebody wanted to make them targets. Civil forfeitures, highway robbery. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
So they're now
absolutely.
targets. They're
Well,
outlaws.
you think of the Magna Carta 1215. It says, promises or fines or forfeitures without lawful judgment shall be void. And so, the basis of any Commonwealth country, it certainly is Britain. It's Canada, it's America, because they're based on the common law. And so, these ancient documents should be respected for these reasons. That, for example, these people in America are trying to repeal parts of the Constitution. But my understanding, as I have it with Roman contract law and with other contracts, is that with declarations and other deeds and certain documents, is that you can only add to them. You cannot detract from them. And so that's very important for people to understand.
MH, absolutely right about that. I mean, for instance, the Magna Carta is not perfect, but it worked the best. We have to work with what is most right for the greater good. And when I say the greater good, I don't mean like some sort of nebulous plan or scheme. I'm talking about something that will work the best for the bottom line and upwards and onward. And when you break that down and destroy constitutions based upon such a document like the Magna Carta, you are going to wind up eventually living into, well, I guess, an Orwellian system, or a regime like Pol Pot.
Yeah.
And, it does. And we don't want that to happen, but it could.
Well, I know for a fact that there are a lot of extrovert psychopath kind of police officers out there who basically they're all too willing to cause damage and to even break the rules in order to get some kind of conviction or to feel good about themselves even, and to subvert the law. And they are out there without doubt. And the trouble is, though, that there are superiors to them who are actually quite dark characters who will give them instructions and give them, they'll build up a false character about somebody, so they will execute these wicked deeds upon people. And they won't feel bad about it. They're getting paid for it. Then they find it quite interesting.
Well, there is a solution to this, that all police officers and judges and ministers of the crown and whatnot take a public psychopathy test. There's an MRI test which you can take, which is basically infallible because it looks at the red and blue of your brain. So you show a picture, and a psychopath will have a certain color scheme, and non-psychopaths will have a different color scheme. And it's not like a lie detector test. You can't stop your brain from acting in this way. So it's a pretty sure way of determining psychopaths. And the police are afraid of it. The governments are afraid of it. Because if we had a public psychopath test for all people in this position, then we would be able to not have psychopaths in the police department and in the military and other places. So they don't want it.
Yeah, which is a shame because it breeds a kind of malcontent and discontent in the community. I'm not discounting the fact that there are good police officers out there, because there obviously are, and they join with the best of intents, and they want to help old ladies cross the road. They want to tell people what time it is, tell them which streets to take, and help with the traffic flow, and find criminals who steal things from people and damage people's property. But then it takes on a darker kind of meaning, and they're compromised, so they either have to keep going along with the program in order to keep their pension and to keep their stable job that pays the bills.
Their goodwill is co-opted by some of the laws that they're being forced to enforce. Yeah.
So they can try and have discretion, can't they? They can try and take it upon themselves to maybe take a few liberties with the law themselves, and kind of with their I'm not so much saying the laws, but with their instructions or what the common culture is amongst their policing department. Because remember, they swap ideas, they hang out with each other, they'll swap hints and tips. Well, I do this and I do that. Why don't you do that? Oh, well, I do this. Why don't you try that? And there's that culture going on within these police departments. But you get these individual officers who will join there with the best of intents, and they can see this going on, and they don't necessarily want to go along with it. But so they feel compromised. So they can either go along with it, with what they're doing, the other people in these nasty little tricks, and not say anything about it, or even start doing it themselves, or they can try and affect change by saying, well, I think we should really be a bit more friendly with the people because we're here to fight crime. And basically, why don't we just be friends with people and get rid of this discontent and just actually serve them in the way we should be serving them?
Yeah, and that person, they don't make it to sergeant. They don't get the promotion.
That's right. They'll be laughed at, you see.
So when I was saying that they don't want this psychopathy test, what I really meant is they're going to have it. You're going to be taking the psychopathy test now or later, but you all will. So just recognize it. And it's going to be public.
Well, like Mick Tavelli, who's in the Chicago police force, you don't have to have anything but a high school diploma. However, you have to take your written test, along with your application, 2 physicals, and then finally a psychological exam. And then you can become, you can be matriculated into the academy. And while you're in the academy, you work. You get paid, but you also study. And it could take you a couple of years before you were actually a real bonded police officer. It just depends on the jurisdiction. But let's take a look at the example about this upcoming French task force against catcalling. From what population will these people be culled? Who is going to populate these catcalls task forces? That's a good question.
The previous point, which is it actually a gender specific law? Because that raises a question in itself, doesn't it? As to, well, why is it?
They haven't defined it yet. They have not defined it yet.
Yeah. Well, I thought about free speech and so on, and it begs the sort of the cultural question, which is, why would someone want to kind of do that, be lewd in public anyway? Why would they want to be like towards a woman? There are kind of social etiquette and manners, ways of conducting oneself in public anyway with people. So if someone is being a bit lewd, tell them to clear off, but if someone's being overtly really rude and they're persistently doing it and they are a problem, then I suppose there's nothing wrong with the police officer. The police officer, you know what I mean?
Like I was saying earlier, they're taking a percentage of bad behavior and they're painting everybody with the same brush.
Right.
Yeah.
Al Jordan in the chat actually answered the question. We said who are going to be the ones that are going to be enforcing these laws? The ones that are actually going to be making up the boots on the ground of this task force. And he answers it: white knights. White knights will gladly take up the job.
Yeah, they will.
Yep.
It seems that way.
Damn right, Hal. And that's the thing. I mean, these white knights also think that they're going to be immune from such prosecution or persecution. They're sorely mistaken, because one day that white knight will be walking too close to a woman whilst going to work. The woman feels entitled to say to Comrade Commissar that this white knight is following me for too long, for too closely. And he will feel the same consequences that he had formerly enforced.
Actually, you hit on a point there, Johnny, because that's another risk that men have to be aware of. Especially young men, that you can get involved with some women, and they may even come out with a story saying how her ex was bad to her and he did this and he did that, and they'll tell stories about all kinds of men. But it hasn't necessarily happened.
It's happening right now here in America, MH. Exactly. I mean,
they'll say a story. They'll say a story to provoke outrage in order to get a white knight angry, in order to him to show her how he'll serve her and how he'll defend her honor. That kind of thing going on, that's dangerous.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's what it is. I mentioned that video by that nasty person, Baring, but he highlighted 10, prominent male feminists, and they just got dorked last year. In 1 year, about 10 of them, high-profile male feminists. So these are white knights, and they got dorked.
And why did that happen? Because they got too close to these women.
They got too close.
Right.
Maybe they were, horribly forward or something like that, but they, their strategy failed.
That large of a percentage, I highly doubt all of them were like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
They said the wrong thing, got targeted, and this was the linchpin that the feminists used against them.
That's right.
My best advice is don't engage.
Yeah, don't engage. Don't engage. Your family's safe, but other than that.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to get too close to a woman who will try to lure you into her web like Shelob the spider and say, "Oh, all is right. I have everything here," and you believe it and you go into it, your main mistake is following that suggestion, because eventually what will happen is you could become her meal when she decides she's hungry. And she'll eventually get hungry, and you're going to pay for it, and you won't have any recourse against that. You won't.
No, there's no protection. You're a walking target. So there's no way to escape it. Except don't play the game, right? Walk off the plantation.
Well, exactly. That's what we MGTOW, and that's, square one. Get off the plantation. You were talking earlier before I had joined the podcast, and I was just lurking in about like a lot of blue pill men that find MGTOW because their baby boo broke up with them a week ago, and they're angry, and they Googled it, and they found MGTOW and thought it sounded good at the moment. And there may be many of those blue pill simps in our chat right now. However, you have to understand that this is a lot of work and a lot of experience to, experience. You have to take your lumps. You don't have to necessarily hit rock bottom, but at the same time, you have to understand that there is a birthing pain into this mindset. It's not all. There are no books written on it. Not yet. You can't learn it in school. You have to enjoy this pain to get here. I've been MGTOW for 7 years, and I'm finally getting it. You know what I mean? It takes that long to finally understand exactly what your life is all about. What do you guys think about what I just said?
Well, it's a personal journey, isn't it? And I mean, you have to go through certain stations in life to get to your destination. We're not all in the same place out there. And so I think it's great when we've got people like us who are perhaps different stations in life where we can interact with each other and share our journeys. And we can say to people that perhaps we've blazed a trail, or we've been pioneers in some way. We've had other people blaze a trail for us, and we've learned an efficient way to go about life, or we understand the kind of path that we'd rather take,
Right.
Because the other directions are a bit too dangerous. So I think you're right. You're right, Johnny.
Well, I'm gonna be a spokesman for the men who don't get burnt ever. The young men who come to MGTOW just learning from the bad experiences of other men, because
Good.
I didn't go through any of that. I wasn't burned. I from 1985 until I left the West in 1997, I didn't get burned. I avoided all of it. I avoided it because I saw the bad experiences of other men. But I did exactly what a MGTOW would do. And for those reasons, I saw my uncles and friends of the family getting dorked by women in divorces, losing half their assets, being separated from kids. And I said, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I saw the feminists entitled women, the fish and the bicycle. I got all of that, and I said, I'm slightly disgusted by this, and I couldn't deal with it. So I'm one of the guys who didn't take the baptism by fire.
Good,
Yeah.
great. I'm actually very happy for you.
Yeah, no, I feel lucky, and I feel somewhat bad, but those young men who come in and they call them virgin MGTOWs, no, I don't accept that with these young men. These men are welcome to MGTOW, and they don't need to prove anything. They're just lucky and smart that they saw it. And stay away from the trouble, young men. You do not have to go through that baptism of fire, because sometimes it is too hot and you will be fatally burned.
I agree, MGTOW
Yeah.
values, and I do apologize to say that, like, you have to get burned to get here. I'm just saying, though, it does take a lot of work.
No, it
even
does
if
take a lot of work, and I know
It
that
does.
most men do, and I feel for that, and most men do, and I'm not saying that anything
I
against
know.
that, but for these young men coming up, I hear some people, not MGTOW, but outside MGTOW, saying that they're not real MGTOW because they didn't go through it. No, I'm going to draw the line there because I'm that way.
I agree with you. I agree with you, MGTOW values. You can actually get here through study. You could get here through books. I recant what I said earlier about that. But what I'm trying to say is, at the same time, from my perspective at my age, we did not have that information.
No, and neither did I. I was lost. I'm going to say I was lost until
Yeah.
I found MGTOW this year. So how many years was I lost? Man, I was lost
Yeah,
for
a lot
30
of years.
30
man.
years. 30 years. I didn't know why I did what I did. But I'm going to say that those men who just come from, the reading of other people's actions and books and this material, they also go through the red pill rage, because I did. They go through the red pill rage. We all
I
share
did
the red
too.
pill rage, whether you were burned or whether you just realized that something was yanked out from the promises that your community had made for hundreds of years, had just been yanked out, and you are angry. So
also values. I mean, your IQ is off the charts. I mean, you're a smart guy.
Well, thanks, but
A lot of us don't share that.
no, I believe you do. No,
So
no,
it's
I
gonna
got
be a little bit
some book
harder.
learning, but no,
But
IQ
we'll get
doesn't
there.
come
We
from that.
will. If we have the eyes to see and the ears to listen, we will finally get there.
Yeah. But no, the IQ is not a matter of book learning. It's a matter of, as you say, being sensitive to your situation and not moving too quickly. Maybe I was just lucky and that was my personality. But no, there's smart men who are not, book educated, and they know it. They know it better than I know it. So, I was lucky, lucky more than anything else, I think. And I had some men tell me the situation. I had some men confide in me in some ways. And that was enough to say, wait, just wait. But it wasn't a secure wait. So.
No, of course it wasn't. And at the same time, you and I have both actually made it here easily compared to, say, something like Traversable. Or Messenger Rising, who were just, lambasted.
Yeah.
And their children were tortured.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had to sit there and see that.
No. See, I couldn't take that. That would be beyond my breaking point. That's what I feel, and I'm being honest here. That would have been beyond mine. I would have snapped in some way.
I could not see my son or daughter. I have neither, but if I did, I could not bear to see them go through these trials that Messenger and Trav's children did. I would.
Well, guys go through it. There's so many guys out there who go through this. It's unbelievable. I mean, when I went through mine,
it's terrible.
I couldn't see mine for over 12 months. I had to fight to see my son, and so on and so on. And I go and pick him up from school quite often when I've made the arrangements. And she'd come along last minute, say, "Oh, he's going to a party today." And quite often I don't think these parties even existed. She just did it so that I would be under her control and she could play games with me. There's all that kind of thing going on. Sometimes some weird politics going on. And when you love your children, you love spending time with them, and obviously having an influence over them. And your emotions they're held hostage, aren't they? And it's, it detracts from your energy that could be best spent in improving yourself in other ways as well. So not only would you have more to offer your child as well, because you're more productive, you'd be more well balanced emotionally to spend time with your child. So it's such a negative thing. They kind of just want to destroy themselves, because often the man's a very intelligent man who wants to provide and have a family, and he's building something like having a home and so on, and he has the children, but the woman will take half the home and the assets of the family that the man was providing for stability of the children as well as the woman,
Yes.
and she'll just spend it on nonsense. So the children will end up with nothing. So really, she perhaps not. He doesn't even understand that far ahead. But what she's actually doing is she's punishing her own children to gratify her own whims, her short-term whims. She'll make the children suffer long-term. So instead of them
MH.
inheriting a home to live in, they end up with nothing.
Well, yeah, MH, by and large, I think women are whimsical. And I've said it before in other podcasts. They don't see beyond Friday night. And sadly, there is a truth to that.
Yeah.
You know, I think they are looking. It's like a junkie looking for the next hit. I don't care about what happens after the next hit. I just want the next hit.
Well, of all the guys I know who worst hit, just off the top of my hat, is myself and Traversable. 20 years of our life, of our prime, has been lost to this. And he said in one stream, I can't quite quote him maybe exactly, but I'll paraphrase him to as much accuracy as I can. If you had a choice to go to jail for a couple of years for not paying child support or maintenance or alimony or whatever, rather than having all that liability over the years and having to suffer with having to do without whatever, or using your home, whatever, or being taken down the police station, having to pay bail or have charges against you, or be threatened with, like, or have to live in a van, or, you know, he'd rather go to jail. He'd rather go to jail for a couple of years and suffer all that torment of losing.
You know what? Yeah, sit it out for 2 rather than a lifetime.
But what kind of a dichotomy is that? Suffer jail for, you know, which is a punishment, or suffer loads more years of paying alimony, which is a punishment. So it's like, which punishment do you want? And that's obscene, really, because how can that be allowed?
It is, but those are the only choices we men have right now. Those are the only choices we men have right now. Or you could go MGTOW and just not let that happen in the first place.
Well, basically, what it is, it's an attack on a man's core belief system where he's got honor and dignity, and he values his family and he loves his children. So he wants to provide for them and be honest to them and work hard and do, and you know, and so he suffers himself, doesn't he? So we've suffered 20 years of this liability for the children, and for
that's right, MH. That's right, MH.
The liability,
play by the rules.
The problems to deal with.
Play by the rules.
The problem.
You studied. Yeah. You made the A honor roll, and guess what? You got punished for it. It didn't matter. It did not matter what you did wrong or right. You got punished.
That's right, and the punishment is for having a generally loving, kind nature where you just want to have a family. I mean, a lot of men want to have a family, to carry the family name on, because they're used to coming from a family. They're surrounded by family. It's a normal, natural thing for them to come from a family. So they don't understand what they're actually coming into these days. And by the time they do realize it, they've got this huge liability upon themselves. And they you know, they're in a hard place, aren't they? Then they might suffer for the next 20 years again. Because it's not so much the liability for the children that you've got, which is, say, for example, if you make your relationship last, say, 3 years after you've had children, your last child, well, you've got at least 15 years of liability, haven't you, if you've got more than one child on average. And then you've got the emotional distress that you've had to deal with, and perhaps you've lost some jobs, you've struggled to work, or you've, you know, because the stress might have got to you, might have taken off time off sick or something, because a lot of guys do that. And they go in on themselves, they just don't know what to do. And
or they couldn't find
to make
work.
That money back, to pay their bills, or they can't find work, and so they got to pay for their property if they want to keep the property, or pay the property tax, because they got to pay the woman off property tax and pay for the property if it's still mortgaged, in order to leave it for their children that they've got, if they want to carry on this family that they're used to being around, to carry the family name on, and so on. So there's this, you know, the system seems to play on, and the cultural influence seems to play on the man's desire and his ignorance and his wishful thinking about this relationship dream that's sold to him as a young man, which is often given to him by blue pill simp, you know, who are produced by women, and who haven't got the father influence that seems to be the thing that's happening now, is that boys are being brought up without a large father influence because the women try and keep them away from the fathers. That's what I've noticed happens out there.
Well, what they happen is they serve you up a delicious looking plate of a trad con life of, you know, Ward and June Cleaver, which is all based on a lie. And just
Tits, ass,
as
and
you,
apple pie.
yeah, and just as soon as you take a big bite of that delicious looking plate and start to believe it, they pull it away from you, essentially pull the rug out from under you, which was all based on a lie in the first place. And you find yourself wandering around realizing that this tradcon ideology that a lot of us were spoon-fed our whole lives wasn't truly there in the first place. Or even those of us who did grow up in a quote good traditional family and have good foundation of you know, the traditional moral values of a family. A lot of the young men today don't even have that to fall back on.
Yeah, because that's the support network, isn't it? The ultimate support network in being strong is having a large family unit, a strong bond within each other, helping each other out. And it's a breakdown in family values and in the family unit. And the man, when he spends too much time in the company of the woman, the young man, when he's been brought by her, he can often take on the traits of the woman and agree with her opinions, or, you know, without the father's influence around.
And the man eventually becomes a woman and becomes a bitch brain. But with MGTOW,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to sound cultish, but you can you have us, you know, for lack of a better word, with MGTOW, you have us as to where you can find that kind of knowledge and that wisdom,
That's right.
and take what you will with it. And we're happy to have you.
That's why I disagree with the pump and dump aspect of some of these young supposed MGTOWs.
Right.
That, you know, the young lads who make these little clip videos of bus drivers hitting people, because that's what they are really. That's that kind of mindset, isn't it, really? Whereby there's a disrespect even for the value of women, which I think is a bit cruel because it proliferates some kind of ill feeling out there that, I mean, we can all get frustrated, but there's no need for us to outwardly project that kind of attitude out there, which is what they're doing. And they're also quite willing to disrespect themselves by putting themselves in a relationship which isn't even loving, where it involves just basically sexual abuse. So I think I don't really recommend that anyway, on those grounds. You know,
Yeah, those guys aren't MGTOW. Those are Minos. They're like the rhinos of MGTOW. They're MGTOW in name only. They've just hitched their wagon to the label or the acronym of MGTOW, something that for us is a life. It's a life. We view it as our lives. They view it as a game.
Yeah, that's right. They're trying to benefit from this knowledge and get women, which still leaves women at the top of the gynocentric system. You've got to just say no, women have their place, and their place is not me chasing around in every which way to get them.
Yeah.
You know, and in the West today, women are no longer for families because of the system, first of all, and then because the women themselves are thinking that, you know, they can change and defect on a husband at any time. And so there's two things playing against men, you know, interacting with women towards raising a family. It's the women, but it's more so the system. So there's, even if the system changed, the women wouldn't be very you know, beneficial to partner with. But then if the women changed, and if you happen to find, you know, a woman who you might think you might trust, who knows herself, you can't because of the system.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of both the system and the feminist entitled women. So a good woman, if you know, if there are some, you can't join with them because of the system. Sorry.
Yep.
Women have been suckered.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like they've been led to believe that life can be controlled by a couple of buttons. When they get married, they hit the pause button, and it's like their life doesn't change for the entire time that they're married. They still think in their minds that they're that young, beautiful woman that they once were. And then when things don't work out, the next button, which is the reset button, and they think they can just start all over again.
I think we also have to imagine what if we lived in a society which catered and mollycoddled us as men, where every morning we woke up to Christmas Day, every whimsy that we wanted was on an app on our smartphone.
Oh God!
We hit the button and we got steak and lobster for supper. And we hit another button and we got, free ride to work. And women enjoy that right now. They really do. In some shape or form, they do that. They have that.
Well, the thing is, though, you imagine if you have been raised by a good family.
My main question is,
yeah, go on.
Would we behave the same way with such scorn and malice against women if we got to be Don Draper every goddamn day? Would we treat women with such malice? I would not.
Yes, you would.
I don't think so.
Because
Really?
this is the spoiled and coddled child. You give them everything, they grow up to be mean and demanding, and I'm thankful for what they get.
Well, I just also want to reiterate
one idea.
that what I said was that women are led to believe that they can live their lives by pressing buttons.
For now, right? For now.
Yeah, and for the most part, they do. They do get what they want.
I'm not hating. I'm not hating on them. I'm hating on the idea and the system that leads them to believe this way.
Well, I'm of the opinion that there are
ultimately it's up to them to choose whether they live their life that way or not. Ultimately, the ball falls in their court. But they're led to believe, just like you said, every day is Christmas morning.
Yeah. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine that thought experiment, Johnny.
I can't either. I can't either. I've always been grown up to work hard, be humble. Don't think your britches are too big, and live within inside your means. And it's worked for me well. It's been actually a survival mechanism for me that has allowed me to continue on and live. Not just survive, but live a good day-to-day life. But let's consider that scenario. What if I was spoiled my entire life? Would I still be the same Johnny Midnight I am today?
No.
I would like to say so, but you might be right. Values. I might be a complete cocksucker.
Yeah. Sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
and we all would. It's not just any of us.
Yeah, I would be too. I'd be a complete asshole.
Yeah, we all would.
Not you. You're a good guy.
Yeah, but if he was raised, being given everything he wanted and being pampered, and like a little girl is, right?
Right.
If he was given all that attention and immediate,
like pure gratification.
Yeah,
gratification.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
there is. It not necessarily, because if you're raising a family environment in the correct conditions, you would teach them that if you're providing them with everything that is necessary, in fact, some comforts and luxuries, you can make it clear to them how lucky they are. You see, the appreciation isn't being taught to people, the value of things. So there seems to be a lack in the understanding in the value of even material possessions, let alone relationships. So that's the situation we're under. It's a moral kind of issue.
Yeah, well,
you know what, MH, I'm much happier that I suffered and remained a good person than have everything and be an asshole. That's my bottom line.
Well, there's no the asshole bit is optional. Nobody needs to be an asshole, do they? If they just
No.
have a decent outset in life, with a decent drive within themselves to want to succeed in a certain way, a drive, a dream, even a passion to create something, to pave a way, to see something building, like your wealth building and your happiness and your health and your interests and your friends and your skills and so on like that. But this is the thing that seems to be hindered in man, which is on the increase. So a lot of people then they see a lack of hope and they see and they feel down about themselves and they get a negative spiral. Then they get involved in self-destructive behavioral problems such as drug abuse or alcoholism, or just losing interest in their hobbies and their friends, and then they might even stop washing their clothes or even washing themselves even.
Yeah.
And that's how bad it can get sometimes, and that's a real problem for some people.
Yeah, when you lose a sense of direction, a lot of times you can just feel like, well, what's the sense of even taking care of the basics? Which kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, MH, about, even if somebody is handed everything in life, if they have some kind of moral fiber, some kind of, moral foundations, what they can do is maybe, even though they haven't earned what they've been handed, transfer that sense of earning into more of a role of maintaining, being a custodian of what they've been handed, and maybe build upon that, and then pass it forward. So even though they may feel lost because they didn't build this wealth themselves, it was just handed to them, and they feel like they can just fritter it away. But if they transfer that lack of association through building it into maintaining it, maybe that's something that they can find some benefit in.
It'll be the rare person who's able to make that switch from receiving everything freely into a stewardship and appreciation mindset.
Yeah.
Because I think the easy giving it things is the moral instruction itself. If you give something freely and easily, that is what they learn. And to then, as an adult, try to say, oh, I got it freely and easily, but I'm not that way. No, they're going to continue.
You see, with something like this, it's the continuation of the house. We've discussed this before, haven't we? Which you say the house of Rothschilds, and you said the house of MH, which is the continuation of the family assets and the property and so on for future generations. And like Whiskey was saying, it's and yourself as well. But like we're saying now, it's about not only having the stewardship of these houses that we're passing on, not so much even in the physical sense of even one property, but these assets and the wealth and of information and property, money, houses, etc., is that the future generations, if they learn the moral substance behind the value of the gift, as opposed to having welfare benefits, because it's quite a big responsibility that involves the requirement for intelligence and a certain amount of morality in order to deal with it for the future generations again, if they were lucky enough to have a coherent family unit to pass it on to in the future, which we're discussing now have been under attack. So not only to have the stewardship of that, but to also add to it and expand it even to secure the future of the generations. But it's
I totally agree. I totally agree. Now, boys, great chat. Thanks for having me on. I gotta go, but I'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot, MH. Thanks a lot, MGTOW Values.
Well, thanks for coming on.
As always, and I want you all to have a great midnight.
Yeah.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks,
Take care.
Johnny.
Always a pleasure, Johnny. Thank you.
Yeah, good to speak to you again, Johnny. Take care.
Yeah, it's nice to get one of those, artificial Canadians on, with Wisconsin Canadian. How did you pronounce that, Whiskey?
Wisconsinadian.
That's great. Yeah, well, they're just across the border from you there, not too far. There's really very little difference between Americans and Canadians. I remember a time just crossing the border freely and easily.
Oh, but yeah. There you I can remember even myself not too long ago, you could cross the border. You just had to show identification. You didn't even need a passport.
Yeah, just anything.
Yeah.
And
Passports are quite a recent creation, really. There was a time where the family Bible was the passport, really. That was the document that said who you were and your children, and that you people were allowed to freely move around. So it's quite a modern thing with the last. It's only the last century or so. So it's the same as driving licenses.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I like the idea about stewardship. You know, the last name Stewart, or the first name Stewart, is a Scottish name, but we have the word in English stewardship, which means to take care of or to protect and allow
That's
to be
correct.
used other grander assets. And that
Yes, it's a custodial role.
it's a custodial role. And I'm wondering whether MGTOW is moving or can incorporate this idea of stewardship into its way of thinking. You know, maybe
That's right.
our chat here is we're trying to be stewards of the reality of the situation and the information about that reality to pass it on to men who wander by. And so we're stewards of information, and we're critical about our own stewardship and critical about the information, but we wish to protect this information from any who wish to, you know, bastardize this information, MRAs or PUAs or anyone else who comes in, that this information, which is really look at reality, and you'll get the information, that we are stewards of information.
And Traversable talks about that a lot, doesn't he? But he refers to it as maintenance because in his past, in his background, he did a lot of work in terms of, managing, building maintenance and that
That's
sort
right.
of thing.
Yeah.
And he sort of refers to it in the same respect, but using the term maintenance, he's maintaining MGTOW.
Right.
That's right. I look at it as though we were saying previously about the contract, and they said the Constitution and any kind of agreement like that, which is that you can't detract from it. You can only add to it. So if anything happens, nothing can be detracted from. If there's any good message out there, it should never be detracted from.
Right. Yeah, we can't take away the good message. We can refine it maybe, but the core is there. As I say, I believe there's a consistency from 20 years ago. And I'll do my regular shout out. I think I'm going to do it every time to Ohio Dan, who has shown there to be two aspects or two red pills or two parts of the red pill. One which the MRA have of looking at the statistics of the world and determining that there's danger. And the other one, which is purely MGTOW, which is the nature of women and the nature of men and the nature of the system. And MGTOW take both of those. And so while the MRAs remain egalitarian, this is not reality. The reality is not that all people are equal in any sense. Yeah. So they're stuck in an abstraction. They're not in reality.
Well, yeah, again, that touches upon the gender-specific laws. So
yes.
If that liability alone doesn't raise a red flag to all men out there, then nothing will, because there's no equality there. And if we're not equal in the law, which is supposedly the whole basis of law, then we're in trouble.
That's right. It doesn't matter what the words say. What's the reality in reality?
Actually, in the field. That's right. So
in the field.
There's the actual trick in writing in their own rule book. And look what happens in the field, out there in the real world. That's right. They're two very different things. So the dream of the Hollywood screen.
Yeah, there's a disconnect, and that disconnect is part of the danger that men fall into. They hear the words, they think that the words are true because so many people are saying them. They go out into the world, they find those words are not true, that men are actually a target, and then they run against those rocks and are in great trouble.
Yeah.
And this is why MRA have, their stance against MGTOW, that we say, no, reality is one way, and you can take your words and shove them. Those words don't mean anything. The world means something. Yeah. So
it's hard to find. For some people, it's hard for them to find answers. You know, if they suffer a failed relationship and they've got this liability of children and so on, and trying to maintain this property for the future and keep the friendships and the influence in the children's lives, the like Whiskey said before, the behavioural element of that your family takes on, and that's the important thing, isn't it? That's lacking these days. That's the risk that the young men are up against.
Yeah,
is that the moral fibre, they might have good intent, they might have been brought up well, and they sort of know what's going on, but they have to realise that this fake reality has been created for them. It's not likely to work, is it, these days?
Yeah, it's a fake reality, and the men are taken in. This is part of the siren. This is part of the waves of the ocean. That there's a fake reality, and and there's pressure from the parents to have grandkids, and there's all these pressures to to join the military, but then you're forced to fight fake wars, and there's an attack now against the fake news, but people are disagreeing on which one is the fake news.
Yeah.
But MGTOW has the solution. Just look at reality. Reality will tell you what the news is. Shut off the words and do some research, and there you'll find reality. So
yeah, because when you have a general moral decline in the population, and it's out there, and you can see it in the mainstream, can't you? A sort of degenerate behaviour seems to be promoted.
Yeah,
and it's all around us, and there seems to be a general lack of moral substance and fibre, where the value of people's relationships seems to have gone drastically down.
Well,
where there's nothing really classy about any of it, and so it's gone from the old days anyway. Values. So when we were young, man, me, you, and Whiskey, and other people our age, it was a different kind of era then. Because remember, our parents were coming out of the 50s, which was that silver screen era of Hollywood, and not what it is today. It was an entirely different message they were getting there, which was a reasonably wholesome one, in all fairness to everybody.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Leave It to Beaver. Wally, what's his name? Wally Cleaver. Mr. Cleaver's reality. There was nothing wrong with that.
Ward and June Cleaver.
Yeah, Ward Cleaver. Wholesome. Okay, maybe it wasn't true, but it's a lie today. It may have been, an ideal truth that maybe some people had back then, but it was an ideal to strive for. Now, what's the ideal to strive for?
Exactly.
Yeah, it may have been a half truth then, but it's a complete out and out lie now.
Yeah. So degeneracy seems to be promoted, whereby even the proper sexuality of men and women is being degenerated, whereby transsexuals are being promoted in the media, which I think that's why Howard Dare's touching upon it, because it's a contentious issue at the moment, whereby there seem to be a lot of boys who are given hormone replacement therapies and when they're children and young men, or they choose to do it themselves when they're young men. And it's interesting to find out what the reasons are for this. And it's because they're surrounded by these images and messages and pressures, social pressures, peer pressures, advertising pressures. And now it's being promoted. These stories are being promoted, aren't they, of 9-year-old drag queens and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, again, every man is a target, and that stretches down to boys. It's a war against men and boys. The boys are targets too. We're the men speaking, and we know that today some boy is being beaten upon because he's a boy. And
well, surely, if you think about this, though, values, is that what kind of a man, though, a father, with any involvement with his child, could allow such a thing to happen to him?
Oh, I know his name. I know his name. It's Justin Trudeau.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's men like this. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're putting your boys into dresses. This is not right. It's not a culture where boys wear dresses. And you're messing him up and telling him he's bad because he's a boy, that he's going to have all these attributes which are toxic. And this is worse than the fish and bicycle thing I grew up with as just a young man coming in. You know, they're growing up into toxic. They're toxic because of who they are. No wonder they want to change genders. Some of them, you know, they're pushed to the limit and then beyond, and they snap.
Yeah.
Some of this is probably happening. Now, I admit that some people are born this way. We know that. There have been hermaphrodites always and androgynous always.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we know this, and we know that men and women have various hormonal balances due to the production of their glands. We know this. But
The thing is, though, where
Yes,
there's a
and
chromosomal
even-
defect, is that they're very slow. They're a very small percentage, though, so it doesn't even warrant the necessary publication that they seem to be getting.
that's right. This is the way you were born. You're not hated.
Because they're not actually, they're not the chromosomal anomaly, though. You see, they are the. Well, I'm not judging anybody, so I'm not even. I don't need. It's not even necessary for me to elaborate even further on that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
these.
I mean,
You know,
even some ancient so-called primitive cultures even revered some of, these, hermaphrodites or even, homosexuals. I know the native Indians claimed that people who were born homosexual were touched by, a certain god, and they possessed to see things from a man and a woman's perspective, and they were highly revered as shaman and this sort of thing.
yeah,
So I mean, there's definitely throughout, cultural history of this happening in nature. But like MH said, it's such a minutia of a percentage, but it seems to be getting so much airplay. It's trumpeted everywhere you look.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the homosexuals I thought was bigger. I thought that was 6 to 10%, with some crossover to bisexuals of a couple of percent more. But the gender confused, the transgendered, that's less than a percent as far as I know.
Yeah.
But
And
today,
and I could see why there's this confusion. I mean, young boys are drugged in schools. We know this. There's studies that show this. Young boys are held down, specifically, like you said, because they're boys. And I can completely understand and sympathize with, the confusion that must be swirling around in a young man's head. Everywhere he looks, he's demonized, questioned, feminized. Problem that I had is, and we spoke to this earlier, was these folks are demonized, but they already have their own platform for which that they can speak to their issues. MGTOW is widely regarded and accepted as being one of the last truly male spaces. And I just get concerned when I see the admission of women and transsexuals and even homosexuals into MGTOW discussions, because they already have plenty of their own platforms, and we only have the one.
Yeah.
And it's not a hate thing. It's not a discrimination thing. It's a preservation of MGTOW thing.
yeah, we can go on to neutral sites, and MGTOW don't have anything against any of these people. It's not people that are the problem; it's the system.
Yeah,
and the way
exactly.
the way that the system makes the people act. This is the problem, and men just have to be wary of this system. Whoever introduces them in whichever way, just be aware of this system that wishes to dispose of you and place a target on your head. From the time that you're born until the time you die, you now have a target on your forehead. It's akin to marking those Jews and the Nazis. I hate to say it, but men are marked now, and there's no escaping it, except these men who wish to turn into women. My heavens, what a crazy thing, what a crazy world.
Yeah.
So
that's, to me, that's the extreme example of what can ultimately happen. Is what you have, what appears to me to be apparently a grown man, maybe very, very late teens, early 20s, from my recollection. So, for all intents and purposes, a grown man. Very confused, so much so that decided to live life as transsexual, and like you said, it's not a discriminatory thing. It's a matter of them being confused, and while we understand the issues that are at hand, we're here to speak to the grander scheme, the entire system, not the individual person. There's nothing against that individual person or what they how they choose to live their lives, because ultimately it doesn't affect us as MGTOW.
No, it doesn't affect us.
It's outside our circle of influence.
No, we speak for the average everyday man who is walking around in the world and is being beaten upon, and we speak for them, to them, with them. And the young men coming up, yeah, they're being put under great pressure. I think this is part of the urgency of MGTOW is to reach out to these men. And if you're happen to come upon this post at this very time, yeah, get information. You're not alone in feeling this way. Whatever way you're feeling, you're not alone in it. And we don't understand, as us older guys, we don't understand what you're going through. And this is a listening post. And so you're welcome to come on and share this so that other young men can understand what you're saying and hear the pressures that you're under and inform us better about the pressures you're under. There are younger men MGTOW sites, and please go to those sites. But we're here as older men to gain information, to learn from you, and to, in learning from you, maybe help us and you understand what's going on with young men today, because your pressures are different than the ones we had. And this is true across the West. You see it in Europe, very bizarre things, and now in North America. So this is the listening post, and we've been at it now 4 hours. I'm thinking we should wrap it up, guys. This is probably a good length. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I think we had a fabulous stream. We had a lot of going not only on the live chat, but not only in the stream, but in the live chat as well. And it was great to have Johnny pop by as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I've appreciated taking part. It's been a good night. So I think we've had a good time. We've shared a few ideas and stuff. It's been a nice, calm, paced kind of environment to share the topics as well. Everybody's been very relaxed about allowing people the freedom to speak and to kind of elaborate on the point they want to make. And then there's been a coherent response being made after they finish speaking, whereby some people, they're quite keen to speak over people or whatever. So it's been a very paced kind of event.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a pleasure to take part in. Thank you.
Excellent. Good. Well, we'll do it again. Us and hopefully next time more men will come on. And want to thank MGTOW Warrior again for bringing down the hammer at just the right time and keeping things right. And everyone in the chat, Hal, you've been with us quite a long time. Thanks for dropping by, and Savage and all the others. And we'll hopefully do this same time next week.
Great. Thank you very much, John.
Thanks,
fellas. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, lads. Good
Roger.
night.
Hey, I got two unknowns moving along this berm that's over here to our right side. I can't see what they got going on, but they're acting kind of funny. Roger. Checking. Yeah, you guys should be able to get out the glass and see a little bit better than we can from where we're sitting. Just